Chapter 1. The mountain was bare. The grass was withered. There weren't even many trees. There was only a simple and crude village made of wood. Strictly speaking, this was just a desolate mountain. Even the birds that passed by didn't want to linger. Sigh! Qin Shujian was bored to death as he sat on a large rock. Beside him was a large saber that was chipped in a few places. Coupled with the patched clothes on his body and the holes in his straw sandals on his feet, he looked like he was about to die. He looked more like a beggar than a bandit. But he was really a bandit. No, to be precise, he was a bandit. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: Level 1 of Basic Martial Arts. Cultivation Method: Level 1 of Body Forging. Scripture: 5 levels in total. Mortal level. Low grade. Equipment: broken sword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. This was Qin Shujian's current status panel. When he first came to this world, he thought that he had been reborn. But after a day of learning, Qin Shujian finally realized that he had become an NPC in the game. As for why he was so sure, because at the bottom right of the status panel, there was a countdown timer that kept ticking. 2 days, 15 hours, 23 minutes, 41 seconds until the arrival of the players. Sigh. Seeing this, Qin Shujian let out a long sigh. The players were coming. And his current identity, no matter how he looked at it, looked like a cannon fodder NPC in the newbie village. He existed specifically to give experience to the newbie players. Killed, resurrected, killed again, resurrected again. Qin Shujian suddenly remembered the scene when he was playing the game. At that time, he didn't feel much about those cannon fodder NPCs. But now that his identity had changed, he deeply felt this kind of sorrow. Wait! Qin Shujian's face suddenly froze. He seemed to have overlooked something. And that was... his body's original identity was indeed an NPC, but now, it had been taken over by someone else, and it was completely replaced. In this way, it was unknown whether he could be resurrected or not. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian suddenly quivered and jumped up from the big rock. No, this won't do. What if he can't be revived? Wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? There are still more than 2 days left. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Qin Shujian took a few deep breaths as he looked at the countdown timer on his attribute panel. It was as if he was looking at his own death timer. It wasn't easy for him to live again. Even if he was an NPC, it was still better than completely disappearing. Even if I have to be an NPC, I will never be a cannon fodder NPC. Qin Shujian silently set a flag for himself. If he didn't want to be a cannon fodder NPC, he would have to increase his level, his strength. Only then would he be able to get out of this awkward situation. This game didn't have the level system that he was familiar with. Instead, it adopted a different division of realms. As for the so-called body tempering scripture, Qin Shujian discovered that there was indeed such a cultivation method in his mind. However, that was only a superficial method of tempering one's body. It needed to rely on the accumulation of tempering over a long period of time. There was no possibility of a quick breakthrough in a short period of time. However, Qin Shujian also had his own thoughts. Since it was a game, he definitely couldn't do without killing NPCs to level up. As for where to kill NPCs? Qin Shujian glanced at the people walking around him and smiled slightly. He was currently in a nest of NPCs. There was no need for him to search. The only problem was, he himself was an NPC. Would he be able to obtain something like experience points or leveling up by killing his own kind? Qin Shujian bent down and picked up the broken broadsword on the big rock. He walked toward a bandit who was dressed similarly to him. At the same time, the bandit's attributes appeared in his mind. Name: Zhang Ergo. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: Level 1 of Basic Martial Arts. Cultivation Method: Body Tempering. Scripture: Level 1. Apart from the name, everything else was exactly the same as Qin Shujian's. He didn't know if it was because of the game's characteristics or because the other bandits were in the same camp as him. In any case, as long as Qin Shujian wanted to, he would be able to see through the other party's attributes. Even if he couldn't see through the attributes completely, he could at least get a general idea. When Qin Shujian approached the bandit, the other party was still standing in the same spot. His eyes were looking outside, and he stood there motionless like a piece of wood. Qin Shujian also tried to communicate with these people. In the end, the result was, apart from him, these bandits were no different from the cannon fodder NPCs in his impression. They didn't know how to converse and had no intelligence. Every day, they ate and rested on time, stood guard and patrolled. It was as if everything was going according to the settings. "Brother!" Qin Shujian patted the other party's shoulder. Zhang Ergu turned to look at him, then turned around again. "Ugh!" A big hand suddenly covered his mouth, and then he was forcefully dragged behind a big rock. Qin Shujian looked at Zhang Ergu, who was struggling instinctively with his hands and feet covered by Qin Shujian's hand. Zhang Ergu's eyes seemed to be filled with confusion. Qin Shujian's gaze hardened, and he immediately raised the knife in his hand. Although the broadsword was badly damaged, it was still abnormally sharp. Poochie, a light sound was heard. It was the sound of a blade piercing into flesh. Zhang Ergu was immediately pierced through. Blood flowed out from the wound. Then, a warm current rose from the broadsword and flowed into Qin Shujian's body. Thump! Qin Shujian's legs gave way and he staggered to the ground. His chest rose and fell violently, and his face was faintly pale. Murder! He killed someone! Looking at Zhang Ergu, who died with his eyes wide open, and the broadsword in his chest, the dark red blood was particularly eye-catching. Qin Shujian didn't expect that killing an NPC would be so realistic. For a moment, he almost thought that he wasn't in a game, and that he wasn't killing an NPC, but a real person. Fortunately, without waiting for Qin Shujian to be surprised for too long, Zhang Ergu's body slowly disappeared under his eyes. All that was left was the damaged broadsword. The moment it lost its support, it fell to the ground. Bang! The sound of the broadsword hitting the ground made Qin Shujian come back to his senses. Seeing this scene, he let out a long sigh of relief. His deathly pale face recovered a lot. Not bad. Although it was a bit too realistic, at least my guess was correct. If he really had to kill someone, Qin Shujian didn't have the guts, but it was impossible for him to not even frown and directly raise his blade. Putting down his worried heart, Qin Shujian finally remembered the warm current that had just surged up. He immediately checked his stats. Name, Qin Shujian Identity, Ordinary Bandit Affiliation, Lianshan Stronghold Realm, First Stage of the Basic Realm Cultivation Method, Body Tempering Scripture First Stage, plus, total of 5 stages, Mortal Level Low Grade, Source of Life, 1 Equipment, Damaged Broadsword, Tattered Shirt, Tattered Pants, Tattered straw sandals. The stats panel was still the same as before. The only difference was that there was an additional source of life attribute. In addition, there was a plus sign behind the first stage of the body tempering scripture. Seeing the plus sign, Qin Shujian's mind couldn't help but move. He subconsciously tapped it. 1 point of life was instantly reset to 0. Under the cultivation method, the words, body tempering scripture, also distorted. Then, a wave of power surged from his body, as if some subtle changes had occurred. Chapter 2. Name, Qin Shujian Identity, Ordinary Bandit Affiliation, Lianshan Stronghold Realm, Second Stage of the Basic Realm Cultivation Method, Body Tempering Scripture, Second Stage, total of 5 stages, Mortal Level Low Grade, Life Source, 0 Equipment, Broken Broadsword, Tattered Shirt, Tattered Pants, Tattered Straw Sandals. 1 point of life source was directly reset to 0. His body tempering scripture had changed from the first stage to the second stage. His realm had also changed from the first stage of the basic realm to the second stage of the basic realm. My strength has roughly doubled. Picking up the broken broadsword from the ground, Qin Shujian weighed it in his hand and found that it was much lighter than before. His originally skinny arms were now faintly bulging with muscles. Afterward, he stretched on the spot and had a clearer understanding of his body. Every aspect of my body seems to have improved to a certain extent, but it's not as obvious as the increase in strength. Pinching the muscles on his body, he found that the skin on the surface also had some toughness. This was the effect of increasing the body tempering scripture by one stage. The body tempering scripture was similar to the Liangshan strongholds cultivation method. Up until now, all the NPCs Qin Shujian had encountered had cultivated this cultivation method. As for the function of the body tempering scripture, as the name suggests, it was to temper the body. To temper the body and nourish the strength. When one reached the 5th stage of the body tempering scripture, one would be able to spread the strength throughout one's body. Every move would be able to explode with the strongest power. As for the mortal level low grade in the body tempering scripture, Qin Shujian guessed that it should be the level of this cultivation method. According to normal theory, this was the lowest level. Above it, there should be something like mortal level middle grade, mortal level high grade, and so on. Even if you haven't eaten pork, have you not seen pigs run? Qin Shujian knew a bit about these normal otherworldly, game theories. As for the life source, killing a Zhang Ergu NPC gave me an extra life source attribute. It should be something that can only be obtained by killing NPCs. I just don't know if I can obtain it by killing players. Qin Shujian's mind turned. Consuming one life source to increase the body tempering scripture by one stage. Increasing the realm by one stage is the same as directly increasing one level. If this is the case, leveling up in this game is quite easy. After all, in this cold mountain stronghold, these non-intelligent NPCs shouldn't think that their companions are trying to harm them. I wonder if Zhang Erge has already respawned? All of a sudden, his thoughts drifted away again. Suddenly, Qin Shujian shook his head. There was no point in thinking about this now. The most important thing now was to find a way to raise his body tempering scripture to the 5th level. That way, he would be able to raise his strength to a higher level before the players arrived. That way, he would be able to get rid of his identity as a cannon fodder. He had set a general goal for the short future. Qin Shujian walked out from behind the boulder with the broken broadsword in his hand. Coincidentally, another patrolling bandit walked over from afar. Qin Shujian also walked towards the other party openly. Like Zhang Ergu, this patrolling bandit was not wary of Qin Shujian at all. Even when he got close, he only glanced at him briefly before passing by. When the patrolling bandit had his back to him, Qin Shujian grabbed his nose and mouth with one hand and his throat with the other. Then, he dragged him behind the boulder. His cultivation had increased to the 2nd level of the martial realm, and his strength had doubled. The patrolling bandit was only at the 1st level of the martial realm. In front of Qin Shujian, it was impossible for him to resist. He was easily dragged over. He did the same thing. His hand rose and the broadsword fell. Blood splattered again. The patrolling bandit fell to the ground with a puzzled look on his face. This time, Qin Shujian had experience. When he saw the bloody scene again, although his face was still a little pale, it was not to the point where he staggered and fell to the ground. However, this scene was too real. It was so real that the thick smell of blood continuously entered Qin Shujian's breath. He could only say in his heart, "This is not real. This is only a game. I only killed an NPC." He comforted himself with these words. He familiarly checked his status panel: name, Qin Shujian identity, ordinary bandit affiliation, Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm, 2nd level of the martial realm cultivation method, body forging scripture 2nd level, total of 5 levels, mortal level low grade, source of life, 1 equipment, damaged broadsword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals, just as Qin Shujian thought. The source of life increased by 1 point for every NPC he killed. However, Qin Shujian looked at the cultivation method column and frowned deeply. The plus sign that he expected did not appear this time. This also meant that the body forging scripture could not be upgraded this time. Previously, 1 point of life was enough to upgrade the body forging scripture by 1 level. Now that I have 1 point of life, I can't upgrade it again. Is it because the amount of life is not enough, or it can't be upgraded continuously? Qin Shujian thought to himself. If it was the first reason, then it would be fine. At worst, he could just kill a few more NPCs. In any case, he did not think that killing an NPC would be enough to upgrade the body forging scripture by 1 level. If it was that easy, then he would only need to kill a few bandits, and the body forging scripture would be maxed out. But if it was the second reason, then things would be a little troublesome. Because what he lacked the most now was time. If there was a so-called cooldown time for every upgrade, then it was really bad news. When the bandit on the ground disappeared, Qin Shujian made up his mind to continue testing his conjecture. One must know that any hypothesis had to be tested in practice. Fortunately, Cold Mountain Stronghold did not have anything else but enough bandits. There were at least 50 bandits gathered in the small mountain. Soon, Qin Shujian left the place. The disappearance of the 2 bandits did not seem to have attracted the attention of Cold Mountain Stronghold. Or rather, no one knew that the 2 bandits had gone missing. Not long after, Qin Shujian encountered another bandit who was patrolling the mountain alone. With the previous 2 successful experiences, he already had a lot of confidence. There were no surprises. Almost as if he was familiar with the route, he forcefully dragged the lone bandit to a place that blocked his view. Then, he decisively finished him off. After finishing off the bandit, Qin Shujian checked his attributes again. Just as he had expected, his vitality had increased from 1 point to 2. But in the cultivation method column, the second level of the body forging scripture was still there alone. There were no changes. The expected plus sign did not appear. Qin Shujian took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He could only attribute this to the lack of vitality. After all, he did not want to admit that there was a cooldown time for upgrading the body forging scripture. After suppressing the restlessness in his heart, he immediately chose his next target. 1-2. Every time Qin Shujian killed a bandit, he would check his own attributes. When he found that there were no changes, he would continue to look for the next bandit. When he killed the 4th bandit, Qin Shujian checked his attributes again. Finally, his expression changed. Chapter 3. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Cold Mountain Stronghold. Realm: Second layer of the martial realm. Cultivation method: Body forging scripture. Second layer, plus, total of 5 layers, mortal level. Low grade, source of life, 5. Equipment: damaged broadsword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. After his source of life reached 5 points, there was finally a plus sign behind the second layer of the body forging scripture. Without any hesitation, Qin Shujian used his consciousness to click on it. The 5 points of life were directly reset to 0. 1. The words of the second layer of the body forging scripture transformed into the third layer in his mind. His realm also went from the second layer of the martial realm to the third layer of the martial realm. A warm current surged from his body and instantly spread throughout his limbs and bones. His qi and blood also started to boil slightly. At this moment, the space between his flesh and blood seemed to have become closer. His originally somewhat pale skin now had a bronze color. My strength has doubled from the original foundation. Qin Shujian felt as if he had practiced the body forging scripture for many years and was familiar with the third layer of the body forging scripture. He felt as if he knew every inch of his body's improvement like the back of his hand. His strength had doubled from his original foundation. This was a significant improvement. One had to know. When he advanced from the first layer of the martial realm to the second layer of the martial realm, his strength had doubled. Now that he had advanced from the second layer of the martial realm to the third layer of the martial realm, his strength had doubled again. In this way, his strength had increased by more than 4 times from the beginning. Furthermore, the increase in strength was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. After breaking through to the third layer of the martial realm, Qin Shujian suddenly had a premonition that even if he faced those bandits head-on, less than 10 of them would not be a threat to him. Apart from that, After advancing to the third layer of the martial realm, all aspects of my body have also improved. Although it is not as obvious as the doubling of my strength, it is still not a small improvement. After briefly familiarizing himself with the condition of his body, Qin Shujian once again looked at his status panel. The source of life column had been reset to 0. From the first layer of the body forging scripture to the second layer of the body forging scripture, only 1 point of life is needed. Body tempering scripture stage 2 to body tempering scripture stage 3 requires 5 life force. The difference is a total of 5 times. After careful calculation, Qin Shujian felt a toothache. If it really was a 5-fold increase, then even if he killed all the bandits in the Cold Mountain Stockade, he might not be able to reach the 5th level of the body forging scripture. However, Qin Shujian felt that it was only natural after learning about the increase in strength brought about by advancing to the next level. Otherwise, the difficulty of this game would be too easy. The third layer of the body tempering scripture corresponds to the third layer of the basic realm. Then, the 5th layer of the body tempering scripture should correspond to the 5th layer of the basic realm. If that's the case, then at the 5th stage of the basic martial realm, he would be able to fight against 100 people. Qin Shujian secretly guessed. That was 16 times the strength of a first-stage basic realm cultivator. However, these were all hypotheses and could not be taken seriously. After knowing that there was no cooldown time for upgrading the Body Tempering Sutra and that there was only a requirement for life force, Qin Shujian felt comforted. Wasn't it just life force? There were so many bandits in the Cold Mountain Stockade. Before he killed them all, there was no need to consider this problem. After all, he was only at the 3rd stage of the basic realm. There was no need to consider the 5th stage of the basic realm. As a person, one must be down to earth. One step at a time, one must become bigger and stronger. This was the absolute principle. After his strength reached the 3rd stage of the basic realm, Qin Shujian felt that he could be considered an expert in the Cold Mountain Stockade. At the very least, those NPCs at the 1st stage of the basic realm would not be able to pose any threat to him. In order to obtain more life force, waiting for more to come was not realistic. Moreover, if too many bandits died, it would attract the attention of the Cold Mountain Stockade master. After all, a stockade had a stockade master. And the stockade master was the most powerful NPC in the stockade. Although Qin Shujian had not personally seen the Cold Mountain stockade master, he knew that the stockade master was not someone these NPCs at the 1st stage of the basic realm could compare with. I must increase my strength as much as possible before the Cold Mountain stockade master discovers me. This way, even if I'm discovered, I can at least escape if I can't defeat him. After making up his mind, Qin Shujian decided to take the initiative to attack. Previously, when he was fighting the NPCs one by one, the efficiency was too slow. There were only 2 more days until the players arrived. If he continued to waste time, he might die. Soon, Qin Shujian did not walk for long before he saw 3 bandits. 2 of them were patrolling bandits, while the other one was standing guard. When he quickly approached them, Qin Shujian did not hesitate. The large saber in his hand carried a fierce gust of wind as it directly chopped at the neck of one of the patrolling bandits. With 4 times the strength of a normal bandit, the broken large saber in his hand was as light as a feather. The speed at which he attacked with the saber was many times faster. The patrolling bandit did not even have time to react before his neck was chopped by the saber. Bang! A large head flew up, accompanied by a spray of blood. The sudden change of events caused the other patrolling bandit and the one standing guard to be unable to react in time. But soon after, the eyes of the 2 bandits flashed with an ominous glint. Even if they were not very intelligent, they could still understand the situation in front of them. Just as they were about to attack, Qin Shujian was already 1 step ahead of them. He took a big stride forward and swung his large saber at an angle. The saber was extremely fast, and it directly chopped at the shoulder of the other patrolling bandit. The blade of the saber cut through the shoulder and directly cut 3 inches below the throat. Ah! After a short scream, the patrolling bandit immediately fell to the ground and died. At this moment, the other patrolling bandit had already swung his large saber at him. Qin Shujian immediately pulled out his saber and met the attack head-on. Bang! Bang! The two sabers collided, creating sparks. The large saber in the hands of the patrolling bandit was directly knocked away. Then, Qin Shujian swung his saber again and directly chopped the patrolling bandit to death. At this moment, in less than 10 seconds, the 3 bandits had died. With the strength of a 3rd stage of the martial realm, he was able to single-handedly suppress these bandits, who were only in the 1st stage of the martial realm. Qin Shujian was slightly out of breath. After killing 3 bandits in one breath, he was not completely exhausted. However, this short exchange allowed him to once again have a clear understanding of his strength. Seeing that the fallen bandits had disappeared, Qin Shujian, who had obtained 3 points of life, was in a good mood. He held the large saber in his hand and continued to search for his next target. Not long after, another bandit appeared in his line of sight. Qin Shujian did not hesitate at all. He directly raised his saber and chopped at them. No, it should be chopped at NPCs. Chapter 4. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Ordinary Bandit. Affiliation: Cold Mountain Stronghold. Realm: 4th stage of the basic realm. Cultivation method: Body tempering. Scripture: 4th stage. Total of 5 stages. Mortal level. Low quality. Source of life: 2 equipment: damaged broadsword, tattered shirt, tattered pants, tattered straw sandals. After his source of life reached 25 points, Qin Shujian reached the 4th stage of the basic realm as he wished. However, he discovered that his strength didn't double this time. It only increased by about 30 to 40%. His original assumption that his strength would double for every stage he reached was no longer true. After his strength increased, he had no choice but to stop after killing 2 more bandits. It wasn't because Qin Shujian had a change of heart. Ever since he didn't treat the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold as human beings, he didn't feel anything after killing so many of them. Of course, it wasn't because he had killed all the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. In reality, considering the number of bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold, he had only killed half of them at most. The real reason why Qin Shujian stopped was, when he killed the 33rd bandit, he received a notification in his mind. Due to your wanton slaughter of the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, you have attracted the attention of the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, Wu Xing. The entire Cold Mountain Stronghold is under martial law and is searching for the murderer. Note: once you kill the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold again, you will completely expose yourself. After your identity is exposed, you will be expelled from the Cold Mountain Stronghold and become a wandering NPC. You will also be hunted down by the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. The Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's strength far surpasses the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. Please note: after receiving these 4 system notifications, Qin Shujian had no choice but to stop for the time being. The system specifically reminded him twice about the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Obviously, the other party's strength couldn't be underestimated. Qin Shujian didn't plan on attacking the other bandits before he understood the background of the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, Wu Xing. He didn't know what the consequences of being expelled from the Cold Mountain Stronghold and becoming a wandering NPC would be. However, Qin Shujian guessed that it wouldn't be a good outcome. At least, before he figured it out, he didn't plan on taking risks. Next, let's go and see the Master of Cold Mountain Stronghold. Qin Shujian thought for a while and made a decision. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. If he continued on like this, there was a high chance that he would run into Mount Liang's Fort Master. It was a good opportunity to probe the other party's background. If he really couldn't win, then he would make other plans. If the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's strength was average, then don't blame him for turning hostile. Liangshan village was not big. They were surrounded by steep cliffs that were difficult to climb. There was only one path leading up the mountain. There were many strange rocks on the mountain, and the only place suitable for building a city was a small area near the top of the mountain. Although Liangshan's stronghold was called a stronghold, it actually only consisted of a dozen or so wooden houses that were grouped together to enclose this piece of land. In the middle of Liangshan's stronghold was a simple and crude hall. On the brown plaque, 3 words were written in a slanted manner. Loyalty Hall. Seeing these 3 words, Qin Shujian was also stunned. There was no other reason for this. It was because these words were too familiar. He didn't know if it was because mountain bandits and robbers all thought that they were loyal and righteous. There were no mountain bandits guarding the Loyalty Hall. Perhaps it was because Qin Shujian was a mountain bandit, so no one stopped him. After entering the Loyalty Hall, the interior was not big. There were only a few tables and chairs placed on the left and right sides. In the center was a wooden table and chair covered with a layer of unknown beast skin. A tall and sturdy man was sitting there. Unlike the shabby clothes that ordinary mountain bandits wore, the tall and sturdy man was wearing a complete set of satin. Beside him was a large saber that was half the height of a person. The edge of the saber was emitting a faint cold light. Even though he was just sitting there motionlessly, there seemed to be a ferocious aura coming from him. Mount Liang's fort master! Qin Shujian recognized the other party's identity at first glance. His attributes appeared in his mind at the same time. Name, Wu Xing identity, Mount Liang's fort master affiliation, Mount Liang's fort cultivation, martial realm stage 4. Enchantment? Seeing this, Qin Shujian was also surprised. When he looked at the mountain bandit before, his attributes were completely displayed. But now, when he looked at Wu Xing, only half of his attributes were displayed. As for the cultivation method below, it was completely absent. When he saw Wu Xing, his suspended heart gradually calmed down. Martial Realm Stage 4. To be honest, this was somewhat outside of his expectations. It wasn't because it was too high. It was because it was too low. In Qin Shujian's original guess, Wu Xing was very likely to be in the 5th stage of the basic martial realm, or even higher. But now that he was at the 4th stage of the martial realm, he was at the same level as him. This was obviously good news. Wu Xing also saw Qin Shujian arrive. He glared at him with a pair of fierce eyes and his voice was not very friendly. "What are you doing here?" He recognized this person. He was a mountain bandit, and could be considered one of his own. What left a deep impression on him was the other party's name. He seemed to be called Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian. For Wu Xing, this name was somewhat difficult to remember. It was also not very pleasant to hear. It was far less pleasant than the other bandit names like Zhang Ergu, Li Goa, and Wang Gudin. In addition, there seemed to be a problem in Mount Liang's fort today. Quite a few mountain bandits had disappeared, but he couldn't find the reason. This matter made Wu Xing even angrier. Now that he saw Qin Shujian, his mood was naturally not good. Qin Shujian secretly coughed and said mysteriously, "Fort Master, I know the reason why the other brothers disappeared." Wu Sheng's expression froze. He immediately said urgently, "Speak quickly." Wu Xing's reaction slightly surprised Qin Shujian. According to the reactions of the other mountain bandits in Mount Liang's fort, he thought that Wu Xing was similar to the other mountain bandits, and should be an NPC without much intelligence. But now that he had exchanged a few words with him, he saw the rich changes in his expression. Wu Xing seemed to be different from the other mountain bandit NPCs. In a sense, he was more like a person. "Today, when I was patrolling the mountain, I just happened to see..." As he spoke, Qin Shujian walked step by step toward Wu Xing. Wu Xing didn't react. Instead, his attention was focused on Qin Shujian's words. "What did you see?" "Look, a saber!" The saber in Qin Shujian's hand suddenly slashed toward Wu Xing's head. When Wu Xing came back to his senses, he just happened to see the sharp saber light slashing toward him. "Impudent!" Wu Xing was greatly alarmed. Without thinking, he grabbed the tiger-headed saber beside him and raised it to block. Qin Shujian held the saber with both hands. The muscles on his arms bulged. He pushed the strength of the fourth stage of the martial realm to the limit and poured it all into the saber. Wu Xing was also in the fourth stage of the martial realm. However, blocking was only a temporary measure. He didn't use much strength. Clang! The two sabers collided, creating a loud sound. Wu Xing's arm trembled. The web between his thumb and forefinger was instantly shattered. He couldn't hold the tiger-headed saber in his hand, and it fell to the ground. Just as Qin Shujian wanted to take advantage of the situation to kill Wu Xing, the saber suddenly broke in the middle. Only half of the saber remained in his hand. This sudden turn of events clearly startled him. Then, he immediately reacted. The half of the saber stabbed forward. Wu Xing also used all his strength and fell to the side of the chair. Pucci, the half of the saber pierced into Wu Xing's shoulder. Ah! Wu Xing cried out in pain. Large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Die! Qin Shujian's eyes hardened. He didn't waste time pulling out the saber. Instead, he released the saber in his hand and punched Wu Xing with all his strength. When someone in the fourth stage of the martial realm attacked with all his strength, even his fist had the strength of 400 to 500 pounds. Although it was a simple punch, it was actually like a heavy hammer. There was no pattern or pattern to it. Qin Shujian's fists rained down on Wu Xing's head and face. At first, Wu Xing was still able to resist. However, as time passed, he could only passively take the beating. He screamed while enduring Qin Shujian's blows. Until finally, the screams gradually died down. Qin Shujian only stopped when there were no more sounds coming from the back. He panted heavily. Chapter 5. In the main hall. The tables and chairs were broken, and the floor was a mess. Wu Xing was lying on the floor, covered in blood. His face was still glaring, and his chest was not moving up and down. Dead? The chief of Mount Liang's stronghold was dead. Qin Shujian took a few deep breaths. The reason why he was able to kill Wu Xing so easily was because Wu Xing was not on guard against him. Furthermore, Wu Xing did not expect that a small bandit would be as strong as him. He had lost the initiative from the start, so it was natural for him to be defeated. All of a sudden, after catching his breath, Qin Shujian seemed to have come to his senses. He immediately picked up the large saber that Wu Xing dropped on the floor. When he touched it, he felt a heavy weight. In his mind, he received the system's notification. Obtained the Grade 9 Refined Weapon Tiger Head Saber. As expected, when the system's notification appeared, Qin Shujian muttered to himself. Since it was a game, killing monsters and getting items was the right way to go. When he killed those bandits, firstly, they did not have anything valuable on them, and secondly, he did not think of this problem. However, the tiger head saber that Wu Xing dropped was not something a normal bandit's broken saber could compare to. After putting the tiger head saber to the side, Qin Shujian looked at Wu Xing's corpse, and his eyes lit up. After searching for a while, Wu Xing's corpse suddenly disappeared, as if it had never been there. The blood on the floor also disappeared without a trace. Only the broken tables and chairs remained in their original state. In Qin Shujian's hands there were 2 wrinkled books and a black iron token. One was the mortal level low-level body tempering scripture. The other was the mortal level middle-level black tiger saber technique. In addition, there were 2 simple words engraved on the iron token. Mount Liang. Through the system's notification, Qin Shujian knew that this was the Mount Liang Stronghold Chief's token. If he used it, he could replace Wu Xing's position and become the new chief of Mount Liang Stronghold. However, Qin Shujian's attention was not on the token, but on the 2 secret manuals in his hands. When he was about to flip open the body forging scripture, he received a prompt in his mind. Do you want to use body forging scripture? Qin Shujian ignored him and flipped open the cover of the body forging scripture. Immediately after, the body forging scripture manual turned into white light and disappeared. Some familiar memories appeared in his mind again. These memories were everything recorded in the body forging scripture. It was no different from the body tempering scripture that he had learned before. This also meant that this secret manual was completely wasted. Qin Shujian did not feel that it was a pity to use up the body-forging scripture. Instead, he turned his attention to the other black tiger saber technique. Similarly, when he placed his palm on the cover, the system prompt appeared. This time, Qin Shujian did not open it. Instead, he silently selected yes. The black tiger saber technique transformed into a beam of white light that was denser than before and disappeared. At the same time, Qin Shujian also obtained everything related to the black tiger saber technique. Mid-grade Mortal Tier Black Tiger Saber Technique. There were a total of 3 moves and 18 styles. The 3 moves were Ferocious Tiger descends the mountain, shocking 100ly, and Ferocious Tiger turns around. Within each move, there were 6 subtle changes. After completely digesting the Black Tiger Saber Technique, Qin Shujian finally understood how powerful this martial art was. He also understood that it was a fluke that he was able to kill Wu Xing. Because, from the beginning to the end, Wu Xing did not have the opportunity to use the Black Tiger Saber technique. Without any reason, he once again checked his own attributes: name, Qin Shujian identity, ordinary mountain bandit affiliation, cold mountain stronghold realm, 4th stage of the martial realm cultivation method, body forging scripture 4th layer, total of 5 layers, mortal tier low grade, Black Tiger Saber technique, plus, beginner, Mortal Tier Middle Grade, Life Source, 18 Equipment, 9th Grade Sharp Weapon, Tiger Head Saber, Damaged Broadsword, Tattered Jacket, Tattered Trousers, Tattered Straw Sandals. In the Cultivation Method column, there was an additional Black Tiger Saber technique. From the original 2 points to the current 18 points, the extra 16 points were obviously contributed by Wu Xing. Normal bandits contribute 1 life source, but Wu Xing contributed 16. It seems that not everyone contributes the same amount of life source, but it is related to the change in strength. The stronger the monster, the more life force it can provide. Qin Shujian already had a preliminary understanding of the source of life. The Black Tiger Saber technique was somewhat different from the body forging scripture. After that, there were no restrictions on the number of levels. Instead, there was an additional threshold. When he saw the plus sign behind the Black Tiger Saber technique, Qin Shujian knew that it was the same as the body tempering scripture. It could be improved through life force. However, he did not immediately upgrade the Black Tiger Saber technique. Instead, his gaze landed on the token. It was the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's token. This wasn't a simple item. After all, if he used the token, he could directly become the master of Cold Mountain Stronghold, replacing Wu Xing's original position. This also meant that it was very likely that he would directly take over all the bandits under the Cold Mountain Stronghold. According to his calculations, even if he captured all the bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold, it was unlikely that he would be able to upgrade the body tempering scripture to the 5th stage. If that was the case, it would be better to take over Cold Mountain Stronghold. Qin Shujian's eyes flickered. It won't take long for the players to arrive. If I can't increase my strength in a short period of time, then taking over the entire Cold Mountain Stronghold might be a compromise. If he did not want to be cannon fodder, not only would he need to become powerful, but he would also need to have enough subordinates to ensure his own safety. If he thought about it this way, becoming the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master would be beneficial. Thinking up to this point, Qin Shujian no longer hesitated. Use! After he silently said this, the token immediately turned into a stream of light and disappeared. In his mind, a series of system messages appeared one after another. You have used the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master token! You have become the new Cold Mountain Stronghold Master! All the dead bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold have respawned. Currently, there are 70 bandits. You have become the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master and inherited all the treasures of Cold Mountain. You have received 50 silver taels. You have become the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. You have been specially rewarded with the Grade 9 Tiger Head Saber and the Grade 9 Tiger Skin set. You may choose one of the two. You have become the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Within Cold Mountain Stronghold, you will receive attribute bonuses and your realm will increase by 1 stage. Note: you cannot exceed 1 stage by 1 stage. With Cold Mountain as the center, everything within a radius of 50 li will belong to Cold Mountain. After becoming the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, you are not allowed to leave Cold Mountain as you wish. Once you step out of Cold Mountain, you will enter the territory of another faction. There is a high chance that you will be detected by that faction. Note: entering the territory of another faction without permission will be treated as a declaration of war if you are detected. Please be careful. Note: you can consider using your connections with other factions. You may be able to obtain permission to pass through. Chapter 6. Qin Shujian almost didn't come back to his senses when he saw the long string of messages. When he saw the last few messages, his face immediately darkened. He was not allowed to step out of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's sphere of influence. This meant that he was now imprisoned within the Cold Mountain Stronghold. After becoming the Cold Mountain Stronghold's stronghold leader, Qin Shujian had a clear picture of the surrounding terrain of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. With Cold Mountain as the center, the area within a radius of 50 miles was the Cold Mountain Stronghold's territory. However, if he stepped out of this area, he would belong to another faction. There was no buffer between the two forces. In other words, if Qin Shujian stepped out of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's sphere of influence, he would immediately step into another faction's sphere of influence. However, if he did that, it would be equivalent to declaring war if he was unlucky. Before he had a better understanding of the surrounding factions, Qin Shujian didn't dare to take this risk. Therefore, this was the reason why Qin Shujian was the most annoyed. Unknowingly, he had been made a fool of. If he knew that he had to pay such a price to become the Cold Mountain Stronghold's stronghold leader, he wouldn't have acted so recklessly. However, what was done couldn't be undone. It was too late for regrets. From the moment Qin Shujian became the Cold Mountain Stronghold's stronghold leader, he knew that there was no turning back. The stronghold leader's identity was something that would definitely be dropped upon death. However, if he voluntarily gave it to another bandit, sorry. Among the bandits, the strong were the kings. There was no such thing as giving way out of courtesy. Therefore, Qin Shujian couldn't help but admit a fact. That was, he had suddenly changed from a cannon fodder NPC to a mini-boss with the identity of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's stronghold leader. At this moment, Qin Shujian didn't forget that he still had a reward that he hadn't chosen. You have become the Cold Mountain Stronghold leader. Special reward: Tiger Head Saber of the 9th grade and Tiger Skin Armor set of the 9th grade. You can choose one of the two. This wasn't a difficult choice to make. He had already obtained the Tiger Head Saber from Wu Xing. There was no need for him to get another one. Therefore, there was only one choice left. I want the Tiger Skin Armor set of the 9th grade. After the Zhongyi Hall was cleaned up, Qin Shujian sat in the main seat, wearing a tiger skin coat. He had already discarded the broken broadsword, leaving only a tiger-headed broadsword by his side. At this moment, his attributes had also changed slightly. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Liangshan Stronghold. Chief Affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: 5th tier of the basic martial realm, Cold Mountain Stockades Territory. Realm +1, Cultivation Method: Body Forging Scripture. 4th tier. Total of 5 tiers: Mortal Tier Low Grade, Black Tiger Saber Technique, plus, Beginner, Mortal Tier Middle Grade, Life Source, 18 Equipment, 9th Grade Sharp Weapon, Tiger Head Saber, 9th Grade Armored Tiger Skin Set, Tiger Skin Coat, Tiger Skin Trousers, Tiger Skin Belt, Tiger Skin Thick Boots. His identity had changed from that of an ordinary bandit to that of Mount Liang's Fort Master. His cultivation had also increased from the 4th stage of the basic martial realm to the 5th stage of the basic martial realm. After reaching the 5th stage of the basic realm, Qin Shujian discovered that his body seemed to have undergone some unknown changes. However, these changes couldn't be said to be very obvious. It seemed as if something was missing. However, one thing was certain. His strength and other aspects of his body had increased by a lot compared to when he was at the 4th stage of the basic martial realm. When I first saw Wu Xing, he was at the 4th stage of the basic martial realm. And this was under the influence of Mount Liang's territory. If we disregard this, Wu Xing is actually only at the 3rd stage of the basic martial realm. The 3rd stage of the basic martial realm is roughly equivalent to the 3rd stage of the body forging scripture. Wu Xing has been the fort master for who knows how many years. In this area, he can be considered to be quite fierce. I'm afraid that he has killed a lot of people. This way, Wu Xing should be able to obtain a lot of life source. However, he is still at the 3rd stage of the basic martial realm. Qin Shujian pondered for a moment. His finger gently rubbed his chin. All this time, he had thought that life source was a function that all NPCs in this world had. However, he now discovered that his thoughts seemed to have gone awry. Perhaps, he was the only one who had the ability to increase his cultivation method by using life source. Qin Shujian's mind was very active. However, he didn't plan on thinking too much about this problem. Men. Soon, 2 people who were relatively bright compared to the other bandits walked in. Fort Master, what are your orders? Looking at the 2 people, Qin Shujian's expression softened a bit. After taking over Cold Mountain Stronghold, he realized that not all mountain bandits were stupid. Among them, there were a few bandits whose strength was different from other bandits. They were also quite smart. Strictly speaking, these bandits could be considered small leaders. As for the 2 people in front of him, one of them was called Zhang Tiniu. He was a small leader at the 2nd stage of the basic martial realm. Originally, he was Wu Xing's right-hand man. Now, he was also one of Qin Shujian's men. The other one was called Wang Taizhu. He was also a small leader at the 2nd stage of the basic martial realm. However, he had another identity, which was that of a carpenter. When Qin Shujian saw Wang Taizhu, he realized that most of the work done by Mount Liang Stronghold was done by Wang Taizhu. Qin Shujian was very happy that there were 2 normal people among a mountain full of low-intelligence bandits. At the very least, if someone could talk to him normally, he wouldn't go crazy. After thinking for a few breaths, Qin Shujian looked at the 2 people and asked in a deep voice. You 2 are both leaders of Mount Liang Stronghold. You must be very familiar with the powers around Mount Liang Stronghold. In that case, let me ask you, what are the places that border Cold Mountain Stronghold? Zhang Tini respectfully replied. Fort Master, the places that border Mount Liang Stronghold are the Lion and Tiger Plains to the north, the Stone Forest to the east, the Endless Mountain Range to the south, the Shining Rebel Army to the west, and the Undying Plains to the southeast. Among them, the Lion and Tiger Plains, the Stone Forest, the Endless Mountain Range, and the Undying Plains all have powerful forces. However, I don't know the specifics. The Lion and Tiger Plains, the Stone Forest, the Endless Mountain Range, the Shining Rebel Army, and the Undying Plains. Qin Shujian recited the names one by one in his mind. Then what about the Shining Rebel Army? The Shining Rebel Army's territory was originally called the Shining Plains. However, after the Rebel Army occupied it, people gradually forgot this name and only remembered the existence of the Rebel Army. Over time, the word Shining Rebel Army replaced the original name of the territory. What is the overall strength of these territories? What is the realm of the strongest? If we are talking about the strongest, it would probably be the Shining Rebel Army. Zhang Tini hesitated for a moment and said with a conflicted expression. I heard that these people are the rebel army of a country that lost a war. They have been wandering here, killing and looting everywhere. Rumor has it that their leader is a powerful existence that surpasses the 5th stage of the basic realm. As for the other places, there are also experts of the 5th stage of the basic realm. As for the Endless Mountain Range, I don't know much about it. However, as long as you don't take the initiative to enter it, you won't be much of a threat. Hearing this, Qin Shujian had a shallow understanding of these powers. To put it bluntly, among the bordering territories, his Mount Liang stronghold was the weakest. The original fort master, Wu Xing, was only a trash of the third stage of the basic realm. Even with his bonus, he could only barely reach the fourth stage of the basic realm. However, the other territories all had experts of the fifth stage of the basic realm overseeing them. Qin Shujian looked at the uncertain expression on Zhang Tinia's face. Perhaps the powers in these territories were even stronger. Now that he had taken over the Mount Liang stronghold, he only had the strength of the fifth stage of the basic realm within the Mount Liang area. Once he left this area, he would immediately be beaten back to his original state. As for whether the other powers had the same thing with the fifth stage of the basic realm, he didn't know yet. However, one thing was certain. Regardless of whether the other party had such strength or not, as long as he left the Mount Liang area, he wouldn't be able to defeat them. How did our Mount Liang stronghold survive in the past? Qin Shujian changed the topic and asked another question. He had just taken over the Mount Liang stronghold, so there were too many things he didn't know. Since he had already taken over this territory, he could only make it look good. Chapter 7. Through his conversation with Zhang Tiniu, Qin Shujian gained a general understanding of Cold Mountain Stronghold. When he took over Cold Mountain Stronghold, he discovered that even NPCs needed to eat. Regardless of whether it was him or those brainless cannon fodder bandits, they all needed to eat every day. Eating also meant spending money. Wanting to farm in this godforsaken place like Cold Mountain and be self-sufficient was undoubtedly a fool's dream. Therefore, the stronghold needed to go out and purchase food every once in a while. In other words, they needed to go to other strongholds and scrounge for money. However, Cold Mountain Stronghold was not strong and those strongholds had their own guards. Only when they had no other choice would they take the risk to scrounge for money. Most of the time, it was the bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold who went out to purchase food. When Qin Shujian discovered this, he felt a wave of sadness in his heart. Ordinary bandits were not restricted from leaving Cold Mountain at will. As long as they did not cause any trouble, they could go anywhere in the world. Similarly, as bandits, Cold Mountain Stronghold was naturally inseparable from robbing. Although the location was not very good, caravans would often pass by. Under these circumstances, the caravans would either pay a certain fee and Cold Mountain Stronghold would guarantee their safe passage out of Cold Mountain, or they would be eaten by Cold Mountain Stronghold. This was the main source of income for Cold Mountain Stronghold. Qin Shujian rubbed his forehead, feeling a little tired. The entire Cold Mountain Stronghold only had 50 taels of silver left. Excluding him, there were 70 bandits in the stronghold. 70 bandits would consume 2 taels of silver every day. This also meant that 50 taels of silver would only be enough to sustain Cold Mountain Stronghold for half a month. As for what would happen when the silver ran out, Qin Shujian only needed to think about it to know the answer. Zhang Tiniu, take 3 brothers with you and scout out the strength of the forces around Cold Mountain Stronghold. Report their general situation to me. Yes. Zhang Tinian nodded in response. Then, Qin Shujian looked at Wang Taizhu. Pay close attention to the area around Cold Mountain. See if any caravans arrive and report to me immediately. Yes. Wang Taizhu accepted the order. Qin Shujian felt a sense of satisfaction as he watched the two of them leave respectfully without refuting his words from beginning to end. Most of the 70 bandits in the Cold Mountain Stronghold were not very intelligent. However, this was something that could be refreshed. They were also loyal and would not have any thoughts of betrayal. As long as he was still the master of Cold Mountain Stronghold, he could always give orders to these bandits. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, Cold Mountain Stronghold was like a small game dungeon. There were fixed NPCs in the dungeon. Even if they were killed, they would automatically respawn after a certain amount of time. However, there was one exception. That was, NPCs killed by players could respawn, but NPCs killed by other NPCs could not respawn. In other words, the Cold Mountain Stockade bandits he had killed before were all in the category of not being able to respawn. After he became the new fort master of Cold Mountain Stronghold, the system refreshed the bandits of Cold Mountain's stronghold. Other than that, if he wanted to expand the power of Cold Mountain's stronghold, he could recruit refugees and transform them into new bandits. These transformed bandits were different from the bandits of Cold Mountain's stronghold. They would not listen to the fort master's orders 100%. There was also the possibility of them rebelling. Then, Qin Shujian focused his attention on himself. No matter what the problem was, improving his strength was the most fundamental. Currently, I only have 18 points of vitality. It is impossible to improve the body forging scripture. However, there is still room for improvement for the Black Tiger Saber technique, which is mortal tier middle grade. Originally, I only had the body forging scripture and did not have any offensive skills. Now that I have the Black Tiger Saber technique, although my realm did not increase, my strength has increased by a lot. This way, Qin Shujian's expression changed slightly. He looked at the Black Tiger Saber technique on the attribute panel and fell into deep thought. In his opinion, realm was the foundation. As long as his realm increased, his strength would also increase. However, if he wanted to increase his realm, relying on his 18 points of vitality, there was still a huge gap. It was obviously impossible to reach this step in just 2 days. Rather than living until old age, it is better to maximize the use of every point of vitality. After Qin Shujian thought this through, he no longer hesitated. Looking at the plus sign behind the Black Tiger Saber technique, he suddenly had a thought. He saw that his vitality had decreased by 3 points, and the Black Tiger Saber technique had gone from beginner to advanced. A different kind of realization welled up in Qin Shujian's heart. The Black Tiger Saber technique in his mind, which was originally somewhat shaky, now seemed as if he had practiced it for many years. A faint aura emitted from his body. After consuming 3 points of vitality, the Black Tiger Saber technique had increased by 1 level. Qin Shujian saw that the plus sign behind the Black Tiger Saber technique was still there. He then looked at the remaining 15 points of vitality, and hardened his heart. Shwa! The 15 points of vitality were instantly reset to 0. Before Qin Shujian had time to feel the pain, he felt a powerful memory surge into his mind, forcing him to close his eyes. After a while, he finally finished digesting this memory. The Black Tiger Saber technique had also changed from the advanced stage to the perfection stage. Perfection! Qin Shujian grasped the tiger head saber beside him. A feeling of good fortune emerged in his heart. In an instant, the 18 moves of the Black Tiger Saber technique flashed before his eyes like an animation. Just by holding the tiger head saber, he gave off a ferocious aura, as if he was a ferocious tiger. The next moment, Qin Shujian directly left the loyalty hall and arrived at the empty field outside. Shwa! 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 His tiger head saber emitted a cold light as the 18 moves of the Black Tiger Saber technique were displayed one by one. There seemed to be a fierce wind whistling on the flat ground, and also a tiger's roar shaking the mountains. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Shocking 100 li. Ferocious tiger turning around. At the end of the display, Qin Shujian felt as if there was a knot in his heart, causing him to feel uncomfortable if he did not vent it. A long roar accompanied by a tiger's roar burst forth. The cold light that filled the sky converged into a saber and fiercely chopped down on a large rock that was as tall as a person. Bang! The rock shattered and scattered in all directions. Qin Shujian withdrew his saber and stood upright. His chest rose and fell slightly as he panted. There was an uncontrollable joy in his eyes. Strong! Very strong! After he had truly executed this saber technique, he finally understood how powerful the Black Tiger Saber technique, which was at the perfection level, was. If it was before he cultivated the Black Tiger Saber technique, the former would definitely not be able to last more than a few rounds in a confrontation. Because one had a high realm, but did not have any means to deal with the enemy. The other had the same realm, but cultivated a profound saber technique. Their strength would be much stronger. Qin Shujian did not know which realm Wu Xing had cultivated the Black Tiger Saber technique to, but as long as the other party cultivated it to the perfection level, or even the perfection level. In a head-on confrontation, even if he had the upper hand, in the end, the one who would be defeated would still be him. Exhausting all 18 points of vitality in exchange for the perfection level Black Tiger Saber technique. This transaction was not a loss at all. Chapter 8. In the Zhongyi Hall, Qin Shujian was bored to death as he sat idly. After taking over the Cold Mountain stronghold, all the bandits here were considered his own people. He couldn't kill them as he wished. Even if he killed them all, the life force he obtained wouldn't be enough for him to reach the 5th layer of the body tempering scripture. After becoming the leader of the Cold Mountain stronghold, he couldn't leave the area of Cold Mountain as he wished. This caused the only plan Qin Shujian had in mind to fall through. Therefore, he was very idle now. Other than practicing the Black Tiger Saber technique and cultivating the body tempering scripture, he had nothing else to do. Suddenly, Wang Taizhu rushed in from outside. When he saw Qin Shujian, he immediately reported. Reporting to Stronghold Leader, a caravan has entered the area of Cold Mountain. Where? Qin Shujian immediately sat up straight. A caravan. That meant he had a source of income. Wang Taizhu said. It's on the Jingyang Road, about 30 to 40 li east of the Cold Mountain stronghold. How's the strength of the caravan? There are 20 to 30 guards. Their strength should be about the same as our brothers. Wang Taizhu answered honestly. 20 to 30 guards, this was indeed a large number. Don't forget that there were 70 bandits in the Cold Mountain stronghold. Therefore, when Wang Taizhu finished speaking, Qin Shujian immediately stood up and ordered. Pass down my orders. All brothers, except for a few who stay behind to guard the stronghold, come with me. I want to see who dares to do business in the area of Cold Mountain without permission. This subordinate obeys. Soon after, the entire Cold Mountain stronghold began to move. These bandits weren't very intelligent, but they were able to execute orders without fail. Out of the 70 bandits, Zhang Tinia left with 4 bandits, leaving only 65. Now, Qin Shujian left 10 bandits behind to guard the stronghold. The remaining 55 bandits came with him. With a single order, the bandits rushed down Cold Mountain like a swarm of bees. Jingyang said. On both sides of the road were steep hills overgrown with withered yellow weeds. In the middle was a road that allowed people to pass through. A caravan with a dozen or so carriages slowly drove down the Jingyang Road. 20 to 30 guards with swords and sabers at their waists were escorting them. Rumble! A few large rocks rolled down from the hills on both sides, cutting off the path of the caravan. The huge commotion caused by the falling rocks immediately caused a commotion among the horses. The originally moving carriage was also forced to stop. Kill! 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 Shouts of killing could be heard from all directions. A group of bandits in ragged clothes and wielding large sabers rushed down from the hill and surrounded the caravan. Whoosh! Whoosh! Unsheathing their swords and sabers, the guards of the caravan simultaneously protected the many horses in the center and confronted the bandits. This mountain was opened by me, and this tree was planted by me. If you want to pass through here, you have to pay the toll. Qin Shujian stepped out from behind the bandits and looked at the caravan in front of him. His tiger head saber reflected a dazzling cold light under the sunlight. May I ask which of you is the one who can make the decision? Why don't you step forward and have a chat? After saying this, there was a slight commotion in the caravan. A stout middle-aged man dressed in silk walked out from the group of guards. He smiled and cupped his hands, saying, I am Han Jing, the manager of the Carrier Trading Company. May I know if you are the heroes of the Cold Mountain Stronghold? Since you know that we are from the Cold Mountain Stronghold, why did you step into the territory of the Cold Mountain Stronghold without permission? Qin Shujian narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, What was the Carrier Trading Company? He had never heard of it. However, judging from the jade stone rings on all 10 of Han Jing's fingers, he knew that the Carrier Trading Company was extremely wealthy. Qin Shujian tried to see through the other party's attributes. However, the invisibility skill that allowed him to see who he wanted to see in the cold mountain stronghold was useless in front of Han Jing. Not only that, he glanced at all the people of the carrier trading company, but he could not see any of their attributes. This meant that only people of the same power could see each other's attributes. Han Jing looked around at the numerous bandits of the cold mountain stronghold. The smile on his face grew wider. I have heard that the cold mountain stronghold master Wu Xing is a famous expert in this area. I wonder if Stronghold Master Wu is here this time? Stronghold Master Wu is not here, but Stronghold Master Qin is. Han Jing was startled for a moment. Then, he laughed and said, So it is Stronghold Master Qin. I have been blind. As he said this, he took out a long and flat wooden box from his bosom and gestured to the guard beside him to hand it over. This is the first time the carrier trading company has come to your precious land. We apologize for our lack of manners. This is a small gift from the carrier trading company. Please accept it, Stronghold Master Qin. After receiving the box, Qin Shujian opened it in front of everyone. 10 shiny silver ingots were neatly placed on the box. You have received 10 taels of silver. In his mind, the system's message arrived just in time. The entire Cold Mountain stronghold only had 50 taels of silver in assets. Now that Han Jing had given him 10 taels of silver for passage, it was actually not a small amount. However, Qin Shujian looked at the dozen or so carriages of the carrier trading company. The axles of the carriages left deep marks on the road as they passed by. After putting away the 10 taels of silver, a smile appeared on his face. Cold Mountain Stronghold appreciates the carrier trading company's good intentions. I see that the falling rocks are blocking your way. Why don't we clear them away for your trading company? There is no need to trouble you with such a small matter. Of course. Qin Shujian ignored Han Jing's refusal and immediately ordered all the bandits surrounding the carrier trading company to clear away the large rocks blocking the road ahead. Seeing this, Han Jing still had a faint smile on his face, but the cold light in his eyes was concealed. The carrier trading company was famous throughout the country. Now, even a small Cold Mountain stronghold dared to ask them for passage money. If this matter were to spread, it would have a negative impact on them. In the future, even a cat or dog would dare to intercept the carrier trading company when they traveled in the lush forest. However, the Cold Mountain stronghold was powerful now. Although he had many guards on his side, there was still a great risk if they were to clash head-on with the other party. Therefore, Han Jing did not intend to fall out with the Cold Mountain stronghold now. Once this batch of goods was delivered, he would have a way to deal with the small Cold Mountain stronghold. Just as Han Jing was thinking about this, loud noises came from the hillsides on both sides. Rumble! Dozens of rocks rolled down from the hillside. Based on the trajectory of the rocks, the carrier trading company was sandwiched in the middle. Oh no! Han Jing shouted. The other guards of the trading company were also in a great commotion at this moment. The motionless horses seemed to have sensed a threat and began to stir restlessly, wanting to escape. Han Jing did not have time to think. Seeing a rock falling from above, it was too late to dodge. He could only use all his strength to hit the rock with his palms. Bang! Boom! Chapter 9. The falling stones paused for a moment, and then were slapped to one side by a huge force. Han Jing groaned and staggered back a few steps. His arms hung down weakly and trembled. A piece of rock that weighed at least 1,000 kilograms rolled down from the top of the mountain, bringing with it a strong impact. Even though he had extraordinary strength, he suffered a serious internal injury to take it head-on. However, on the other side, Han Jing had just deflected the rocks. Before he could take 2 breaths, a fierce gust of wind came from the side. When he looked up, he saw the blade shining with cold light. Lianshan village! Han Jing was furious, but the blade came too fast. The strong pressure made him feel as if he was facing a powerful beast. Besides, he had just used up his old strength, and had not recovered his new strength. Therefore, Han Jing chose to retreat at once. Bang! The tiger head knife fell and the blade cut Han Jing's clothes. Qin Shujian's face was cold and stern. He took a big stride forward and swung his tiger-headed saber at Han Jing continuously. Han Jing was shocked and kept retreating. The first move, tiger descends the mountain. Qin Shujian's momentum was like a rainbow. The tiger head knife seemed to incarnate into a real tiger, and Han Jing in front of him was his prey. The first move, tiger descends the mountain, contained 6 changes. Han Jing struggled to raise his arm and hit out his palm like a butterfly to deal with Qin Shujian's attack. Qin Shujian held the knife with both hands and kept attacking like a fierce tiger. The strong wind between the attacks was like the roar of a fierce tiger, which frightened Han Jing and made his moves stagnate a little. The tiger roars in the forest, shaking 100 miles. Swish! The blade flashed and a broken palm flew up with blood splashing. The sharp pain made Han Jing's face turn pale. At this time, Qin Shujian passed by quickly. Han Jing instinctively turned back to defend, but the tiger head knife stabbed into his chest like a swallow returning to its nest. The blade with bright red blood directly went through his back. If the tiger did not turn back, it would see blood. Han Jing's blood rushed to his throat, and he could only make a ho-ho sound. Poochie! The blade was pulled out, and the corpse collapsed to the ground. After killing Han Jing, Qin Shujian let out a sigh of relief. From the exchange of blows just now, he could sense that the other party's strength was definitely not below his. If he hadn't taken the initiative, he might not have had the chance to kill the other party so easily. When Qin Shujian saw the new 73 HP in his attributes, he couldn't help but be astonished. Han Jing alone provided 73 life force points. Without waiting for Qin Shujian to think too much, he saw the value of his life force jump again, from the original 73 to 74. This sudden turn of events made him raise his head to look in the direction of the carrier trading company. Most of the people in the carrier trading company were crushed to death by the huge boulder. A large amount of goods were scattered all over the ground from the shattered carriages. Only a small portion of the guards were spared from the attack of the boulders. However, as one of the leaders of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Wang Taizhu immediately commanded the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold to attack the remaining guards of the carrier trading company. The remaining guards were already scared out of their wits. Faced with the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, they were almost defenseless. In Qin Shujian's line of sight, Wang Taizhu killed a guard of the trading company with a swing of his sword. As for the health points column that he had been paying attention to, it changed from 74 points to 75 points at the right time. Hiss! Seeing this change, Qin Shujian inwardly sucked in a breath of cold air. He had always thought that he could only obtain life force points from killing NPCs with his own hands. But now, he could also obtain life force points from the NPCs killed by Wang Taizhu and the other bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. This was a completely different story. Before Qin Shujian could think too much, the remaining guards of the trading company were all killed by the bandits after a few minutes of fighting. At this time, his life force finally stopped at 83 points. Looking at the goods scattered all over the ground, Qin Shujian immediately ordered, "Take away all the valuables. Cut off the meat of the dead horses and bring them away." Then, the bandits began to move in an orderly manner. The scattered goods were brought back to the Cold Mountain Stronghold. In Qin Shujian's mind, the system's messages kept appearing. "You have received 10 taels of silver. You have received an antique calligraphy painting. You have received 5 taels of silver. You have received 7 taels of gold." A long string of messages kept appearing. At first, Qin Shujian was interested in reading the messages, but he quickly abandoned them and turned his gaze to Han Jing's corpse, which had died with his eyes wide open. Looting the corpse. This was something that players had to do after defeating a boss in any game. Although Han Jing was not a big boss, he was at least a small boss of the same level as the head of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. No matter what, he could not be stingy. In the cold mountain stronghold, Qin Shujian sat upright in the loyalty hall, fiddling with a jade token in his hand. Carrier Trading Company token, use it to join the Carrier Trading Company. Note: if you already have a faction, you need to withdraw from the faction before you can use it. Apart from this, he had also gained a lot from the extermination of the Carrier Trading Company. You have received a total of 530 taels of silver. You have received a total of 50 taels of gold. You have received a certain number of antique calligraphy paintings. You have received a total of 1,236 caddies of horse meat. You have killed the manager of the Carrier Trading Company and robbed their goods. The Cold Mountain Stronghold and the Carrier Trading Company are enemies, invisible. Note: the Carrier Trading Company is not aware of the death of manager Han Jing, so the assassination attempt by Cold Mountain Stronghold has not been exposed. Once the incident is exposed, the relationship between the two parties will be exposed. When the time comes, Cold Mountain Stronghold may be attacked by the Carrier Trading Company. Qin Shujian only glanced at the last few messages before tossing them to the back of his mind. In order to ensure that this matter was done cleanly, he did not let go of Han Jing and the other NPCs of the Carrier Trading Company. As for the corpses and bloodstains, he only left after he saw them disappear with his own eyes. If there were no mishaps, it would not be easy for the Carrier Trading Company to find out the whereabouts of Han Jing and the others. Moreover, even if they found out, they might not be able to find out who did it. Therefore, Qin Shujian was more concerned about his gains from this trip. Putting aside the antique calligraphy paintings that needed to be sold for cash, 50 taels of gold was equivalent to 500 taels of silver. Based on the information he had received from this trip, he had already gained over 1,000 taels of silver. Based on Cold Mountain Stronghold's current standard, over 1,000 taels of silver could sustain the stronghold's expenses for at least a year and a half. If they did not open for business for 3 years, they would be able to sustain themselves for 3 years. Qin Shujian could not help but sigh with emotion. No wonder people always say that killing and arson makes one's belt golden. This is a saying of wisdom no matter where it is. Chapter 10. Killing people and arson is a golden belt. Repairing bridges and paving roads leaves no corpses behind. It was only now that Qin Shujian truly understood the meaning of those words. This time, the extermination of the Carrier Trading Company was a great harvest. With this batch of silver, the Liangshan stronghold would not need to worry about food for a period of time. However, compared to this batch of goods, there was another matter that made Qin Shujian even happier. That was 83 points of life force. It could be said that this was the first time in his life that he had obtained so much life force. If not for the contribution of the Carrier Trading Company, even if he slaughtered all the bandits of the Liangshan stronghold, he would not have been able to gather so much life force. Most importantly, through this matter, Qin Shujian discovered another way to obtain life force. That was, if his subordinates killed NPCs, he would also be able to obtain the corresponding life force. This was the most important thing for Qin Shujian. It could even be a decisive factor for him in the future. One must know that if he wanted to reach the 5th level of the basic martial arts, he would need hundreds of life force, not to mention the 6th and 7th levels of the basic martial arts after the 5th level. Towards the end, each level of the basic martial arts would require an astronomical amount of improvement. If Qin Shujian were to rely on himself, even if he killed until the end of time, he might not be able to gather enough life force. But now, it was completely different. Not only could he obtain life force from killing NPCs, but his subordinates could also obtain life force from killing NPCs. Not to mention that in the future, he might also obtain life force from killing players. In the battle of the Carrier Trading Company, Qin Shujian only killed Han Jing. The remaining guards of the merchant group were all killed by the bandits of the Liangshan stronghold. In other words, if he was alone, he would not have been able to kill all the people of the Carrier Trading Company, and he would not have been able to obtain so much life force. At first, Qin Shujian was still troubled by the fact that he had become the Liangshan stronghold master, thinking that it was a restriction on him. But now, Qin Shujian no longer had this thought. Being a bandit was good. Being a bandit leader was even better. Currently, there were only 70 bandits in Liang Mountain, and their strength wasn't that great. However, if this number was doubled, or even tenfold, then the strength of Liang Mountain stronghold would definitely increase exponentially. As Cold Mountain stronghold's strength increased, it also meant that he could obtain more life force. What were bandits doing? Raiding and robbing? Bullying the weak? To Qin Shujian, this was not important. The most important thing was that he had found a shortcut to quickly increase his strength. Now, Qin Shujian had another ambition in his heart. He wanted to be the biggest bandit leader. This did not conflict with his original goal. Instead, they complemented each other. Alas, life really needs a goal. Only then can we have the motivation to move forward. Qin Shujian's lips curled into a smile. He couldn't help but feel great. However, the most important thing right now was to increase his own strength. Looking at the 83 life force, Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. According to his estimation, he should only need about 30 more life force to increase his body tempering scripture to the 5th layer. However, although this gap was not big, it was not small either. It would not be easy to make up for it in a short period of time. From the battle with Han Jing, although he was able to gain the upper hand because of the help of external objects, he was able to gain the upper hand. However, in all seriousness, the real reason why he had such an overwhelming advantage was the Black Tiger Saber technique, which had reached the perfection level. After the actual battle, Qin Shujian finally understood how much the Black Tiger Saber technique could increase his strength. The perfection level of the Black Tiger Saber technique is already like this. If I can increase it to the next level, even if I don't increase my realm, my strength will increase by a lot. Qin Shujian's expression changed. In the end, he still had an idea. Roar! An earth-shattering roar was heard. A black tiger as tall as 2 people leaped into the forest. It moved and stayed still, displaying the might of the king of beasts. A ferocious aura instantly assaulted his face. Then, the black tiger suddenly moved and pounced forward. Boom! Qin Shujian's heart trembled. Instantly, a wave of comprehension surged up like a tide. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into a black tiger, roaring in the forest. The 3 moves and 18 styles of the Black Tiger Saber technique seemed to have come alive, appearing in his mind one by one. After a long time, Qin Shujian finally withdrew from this comprehension. A pair of calm eyes seemed to contain a terrifying, ferocious light. Just by sitting there, he seemed to emit a powerful aura. Perfection level! Qin Shujian muttered. This was the next level that one would reach after reaching the perfection stage. At this level, it meant that his comprehension of the Black Tiger Saber technique was not weaker than the creator of this saber technique. But now that I have completed the body tempering scripture, the strength is present in every part of my body. Wherever my mind goes, I can unleash all my strength. In such a situation, the benefits were not small. No matter how fast one's speed was, there would still be a gap between them. When experts exchanged blows, a single interval could determine the outcome of the battle, and even determine life and death. It was also because of this that Qin Shujian understood how useful this passive skill was. At this moment, he looked at his own attributes again. Name, Qin Shujian Identity, Liangshan Stronghold Chief Affiliation, Liangshan Village Realm, 6th Stage of the Basic Realm, Liangshan Village's Territory, Realm +1, Cultivation Technique, Complete Body Tempering Scripture, Strength at Will, Mortal Lower Grade, Black Tiger Saber Technique Greater Heights, Mortal Middle Grade, Life Source, 8 Equipment, Tiger Head Saber, Tiger Skin Armor Set, Tiger Skin Coat, Tiger Skin Trousers, Tiger Skin Belt, Tiger Skin Thick Boots. After completing the body tempering scripture, there was an additional strength that will function. His realm had also increased to the 6th stage of the basic realm. Men! After calming down, Qin Shujian shouted loudly. Wang Taizhu immediately came over and said respectfully, Stronghold Chief, take a few brothers and investigate how many mutants there are in the Liangshan area. Also, see if there are any changes in the surrounding area. Understood. In an average-sized village, dense stars fell and transformed into humans dressed in coarse hemp clothes. There were men and women. There were old and young. The scene suddenly became noisy. Hiss! What a realistic game. I'm afraid that no game in the country can compare to this in terms of realism. Lu Shujia pinched his arm. The clear pain immediately rushed into his mind, causing him to suck in a breath of cold air. As he breathed, a faint freshness entered his nostrils, making him feel relaxed and happy. Soon, Lu Shujia came back to his senses. The first thing he did was to check his own stats. After a while, Lu Shujia stopped checking his stats and frowned. There are no levels and no experience bars. Even the stats that are usually found in previous games are nowhere to be found. Martial Realm 0, looks like this is the level of this world. However, there is no experience bar. Could it be that I can't level up in this world by killing monsters, or is it hidden? He was a little confused. Before the open beta test, the officials did not reveal any information about this game. This caused everyone who entered the game, including him, to be confused. However, with his many years of gaming experience, Lu Shujia immediately suppressed the doubts in his heart and looked at the surroundings of the village. According to his estimation, this should be the novice village. In the novice village, there would often be some novice tutorials and novice quests. These tutorials and quests would not be placed in the open, but required one to take the initiative to trigger them. In Lu Shoujia's line of sight, many players had already left their original positions. Some tried to talk to the passing villagers, while others directly left the village. Lu Shujia thought for a while, then walked toward a guard standing at the entrance of the village. There, many players had already surrounded the guard and were saying all sorts of things, trying to trigger a quest or obtain some useful information. Hello, may I ask how I can help you? Lu Shujia squeezed his way to the front of the guard and asked his habitual question. The guard glanced at him, shook his head, and replied, You are too weak. You can't help me. There were no surprises. The guard's reply was the same as his reply to the other players. Lu Shujia was not discouraged and continued to ask, Then how can I increase my strength, and how can I help you? Hearing this, the guard was startled. At the same time, Lu Shujia quietly left the group of players. This was because he had just received a system notification. The village guard, Chun'ermu, seems to be troubled. You want to help, but you are not strong enough. Your enthusiasm moved Chun'ermu. He told you about the dojo in the village. There will be a chance for you to increase your strength. Once you are strong enough, you can go find him. Quest: take the first step. Requirements: reach the first stage of the martial realm. There will be no punishment if you fail. Do you accept? Seeing this, Lu Shujia did not hesitate to accept. Then, he walked toward the village and looked for the dojo mentioned in the quest. Chapter 12. Cold Mountain Stronghold. Zhang Tiniu, who had been ordered to investigate the surrounding situation, came back first to report. Stronghold Lord! How is it? How much have you investigated of the factions bordering Cold Mountain? Looking at Zhang Tiniu in front of him, Qin Shujian asked in a deep voice. Zhang Tiniu respectfully replied, This time, I went to the Stone Forest. There are 3 bandit groups there, each with 70 to 80 people. Their individual strength isn't much weaker than our Cold Mountain stronghold. However, these 3 bandit groups don't disturb each other. They divide the Stone Forest into 3 areas, each occupying one side. Their leaders are at least at the 4th or 5th stage of the new martial realm. Hearing this, Qin Shujian's expression didn't change. According to Zhang Tiniu, the forces in the Stone Forest were about the same as his Cold Mountain stronghold. However, compared to the cold mountain stronghold, the bandits in the stone forest each occupied one side. Therefore, the average strength of both sides was about the same. However, if the stone forest was unified, the former cold mountain stronghold would have no chance of resisting. Looking at the big picture through a tube. From the situation in the stone forest, Qin Shijian could also roughly estimate the strength of the forces in the other places. If it was a day ago, he would have prepared for a rainy day. But now, Qin Shijian didn't have this thought for the time being. First, his body tempering scripture had reached perfection. In the cold mountain area, he was equivalent to a sixth stage of the new martial realm. According to Zhang Tinia's previous words, among these factions, only the Xining rebel army in the west had an expert that surpassed the fifth stage of the new martial realm. Moreover, it was possible that they were supported by other factions. Once they left the Xining rebel army's territory, it was unknown whether they could maintain their strength. In other words, with him overseeing the cold mountain stronghold, it was equivalent to having a sixth stage of the new martial realm overseeing it. Before there were too many unforeseen events, Cold Mountain Stronghold could be maintained without any worries. Moreover, the thing that was truly worthy of Qin Shijian's attention. It was the players who had descended into the world. No one knew better than him how much potential the players had, and how quickly the players could increase their strength. If he didn't think of a way to solve this problem, then sooner or later he, the mini-boss of Cold Mountain Stronghold, would be killed by players. Before Qin Shijian could think too much, Wang Taizhu, who had been investigating the players' situation, returned to report. 20 miles east of Mount Liang, there's a new village. Many mutants have gathered there. Village? Upon hearing this, Qin Shijian's face darkened. All of a sudden, there was an additional village. This kind of situation naturally caused the players to collapse. Fortunately, some people later discovered that there was no need to cultivate step by step. They only needed to kill monsters like in other games to accumulate the cultivation progress of the cultivation method and indirectly increase the level of the realm. However, for unarmed players, they could only deal with some wild monsters that weren't much of a threat. Therefore, this created the situation before their eyes. Suddenly, a player stopped and looked in a certain direction in the distance. His eyes couldn't help but light up. Look, there's a humanoid NPC. What? It really is a humanoid NPC, and it's even carrying a sword. It's obvious that its strength isn't simple. Hearing this, the other players also discovered this point and immediately started discussing it. As he spoke, he looked at the NPC with a burning gaze. There was suddenly an NPC in the wilderness. Moreover, looking at its equipment and appearance, its identity was obviously not simple. In the eyes of the players, it was like a walking mission board. Looking at the many players swarming toward him, Qin Shijian frowned slightly. However, he didn't directly attack. Instead, he said pleasantly, "Everyone, I want to go to the village in front to rest. Please make way." Of course, of course. When the other players heard this, they consciously made way for him. This was because, in their opinion, an NPC that could talk was very likely to be able to issue missions. If they fell out with the NPC because of a small matter, causing them to not be able to receive missions, it would be a loss for the greater good. However, although the path was cleared, there were still many players who didn't give up and continued to ask questions. Is there anything I can help you with? What's your problem? Why don't you tell me and see if I can help you? Hello? Qin Shijian had a smile on his face the entire time. Surrounded by many players, he walked towards the village. Chapter 13. You are about to enter the range of Novice Village 10021. Attention! Entering the range of Novice Village without permission will cause hostility from the village guards and experts. When he was only 3 zhang away from the village entrance, Qin Shijian received a system notification. Looking at the guards standing in front of the village, he stopped. Range of Novice Village? The enmity of the village guards and the experts? These two notifications made Qin Shijian's expression turn serious. He had almost no understanding of the novice village in the Liang Mountain area. But just by looking at the guards in front of the village, he could roughly estimate the strength of the novice village. If it was a normal time, before he had a clear understanding of the situation between himself and the enemy, Qin Shijian would not act rashly. But the novice village was different. The more time he gave the players, the more of a threat they would pose to him. This time, Qin Shijian's main purpose was to directly investigate the novice village's depth. As for why he personally acted, the reason was because the Liang Mountain stronghold did not have any experts that could be of great use. If he sent a few mountain bandits, they would not even be able to enter the village entrance, and would directly become experience for the players. Since he wanted to investigate the depth, then he needed to have enough strength. Qin Shijian was currently using himself as a rock to investigate the novice village's depth. He was confident. Relying on his sixth stage of the martial realm, even if there were some terrifying experts hidden in the novice village, he would still be able to escape unscathed. When the players around Qin Shijian saw Qin Shijian stop in front of the novice village, they all had a puzzled expression, as if they did not understand what he meant. But before they could ask, Qin Shijian took a step forward. "Attention! You have entered the range of Novice Village 10,021. After glancing at the system notification, Qin Shijian threw it to the back of his mind. At this time, the guards that were originally standing motionless at the entrance of the village like statues, now directly walked forward and blocked Qin Shijian's path. "Stop!" The two spears crossed each other, the shining spear tips reflecting a cold light. One of the guards, who seemed to be older, said in a deep voice, "This is already within the boundaries of the village. Anyone who is not from the village is prohibited from entering." "Hee hee!" Qin Shijian smiled faintly at first, but then his expression turned cold. "I didn't expect that there would still be people who want to block my path in Liang Mountain." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere suddenly became solemn. The surrounding players all had different expressions on their faces. Many of them had excited looks in their eyes. With their eyesight, how could they not see it? His simple words already contained a lot of anger, as if a fight could break out at any time. For the players, it didn't matter if the village guards were on their side or not. They also didn't need to care if Qin Shijian was an enemy. In their eyes, these were just NPCs. Since they were NPCs, fighting to the death had nothing to do with them. Perhaps they could even gain some benefits from this place. Therefore, many players were in an uproar, hoping that the two sides would start fighting. He didn't care about the guards blocking him. The two spears were useless in Qin Shijian's eyes. He only paused for a moment before continuing forward. "Kill!" The two guards attacked at the same time. The spears stabbed forward fiercely with a fierce aura, enough to easily pierce through a person's body. However, in Qin Shijian's eyes their movements were as slow as a turtle's. He raised his right hand and his palm missed the tip of the spear. His two fingers tapped the body of the spear at an extremely fast speed. Bang! A powerful force exploded from the spear body. The hands of the two guards were instantly torn apart, and they couldn't help but loosen their grip on the spears. Qin Shijian took a big step forward and his palms landed on the chests of the two guards at the same time. At the sixth stage of the martial realm, the strength of his palms was at least 1,000 caddies. The two guards were only at the first stage of the martial realm, so how could they withstand his attacks? Boom! The two guards flew out like weeds. Their chests were deeply caved in, and the bones inside had already been shattered. In an instant, blood flowed out of their 7 orifices. They didn't even have time to speak before they fell to the ground, dead. Hua! This sudden turn of events gave the other players a huge fright. Even if they knew that there would be a conflict, they didn't expect it to happen so suddenly. Those guards, who seemed to have extraordinary strength in their eyes, couldn't even hold on for a single exchange before they were all dead. Qin Shijian's speed was so fast that the players could only see 2 afterimages before the battle ended. An expert. This NPC was definitely an expert. Even the NPCs in the dojo that taught cultivation techniques weren't as strong as Qin Shujian in the eyes of these players. This NPC is so strong. If I could learn his cultivation technique, I would be able to leave the other players in the dust. Some of the players thought of something else. After playing the game for so long, some of the experienced players had already figured out some of the rules of the game. There were no levels, and players mainly focused on cultivating cultivation techniques. Therefore, the higher the level of the cultivation technique, the stronger the player would be. The cultivation techniques that could be learned in the village's dojo were all trash that could be found on the streets. It was very difficult for one to stand out from the other players. If one wanted to truly break free, one had to find a way to learn a higher level cultivation technique. In the eyes of these players, Qin Shujian was an NPC with unfathomable strength who possessed a higher level cultivation technique. Qin Shujian didn't care about what the players thought. Because when he killed the 2 village guards, his source of life increased by 2 points. At the same time, he also received a message from the system. You killed the guards of Novice Village 10021. The relationship between Cold Mountain Village and Novice Village 10021 is hostile. Your actions have angered the experts of Novice Village 10021. Attention! The experts of Novice Village 10021 are rushing over. Experts. Seeing the words, experts, above the system, Qin Shujian's eyes narrowed slightly. Even without the system's notification, he could vaguely sense that in the novice village in front of him, there was a heavy aura rapidly approaching. On the other side, the tragic death of the 2 village guards completely attracted the attention of the other guards. Suddenly, more than 10 guards rushed out of the village. There were no superfluous words, and no excessive conversation. Kill! One of the guards angrily shouted, and his spear stabbed towards Qin Shujian. At the same time, the other guards also attacked at almost the same time. More than 10 spears stabbed out. The shining spear tips made people's hair stand on end, as if they could feel a great threat from them. Qin Shujian's right hand had already quietly grasped the hilt of the sword on his back. Looking at the incoming spears, his eyes gradually turned cold. Chapter 14. Boom! Qin Shujian's aura completely changed. He was like a fierce tiger leaping out of the forest. His fierce aura rushed towards the players. The tiger head saber was suddenly unsheathed. The heavy saber carried a strong wind as it slashed towards the guards. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Like a hot knife through butter. In the blink of an eye, the 12 long spears were all shattered. The saber continued to slash forward. The guards' eyes were filled with horror. Their bodies seemed to be locked by a powerful aura. In their eyes, the current Qin Shujian had already turned into a terrifying beast. His tyrannical aura directly froze one's mind. Not only the guards. Even the surrounding players felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave when Qin Shujian's aura swept across. At that moment, they felt that the person standing there was no longer an NPC, but more like a terrifying and deadly beast. Stop! A shocking roar came. Qin Shujian's eyes were cold. His attacks did not stop at all. The saber flashed and blood spurted out. A pitch-black figure rushed out from the novice village. He fiercely struck out with his palm. The scorching wind from his palm instantly raised the surrounding temperature. It shocked everyone within 100 miles. Roar! The fierce tiger roar of the mountain forest made the pitch-black figure slightly pause. Qin Shujian did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. The tiger head saber once again slashed out with the fierce tiger descends the mountain. Boom! A violent gust of wind spread out. Qin Shujian's saber-wielding arm trembled slightly. His body also involuntarily moved back. As for the pitch-black figure, he fell backwards. 5th stage of the basic realm? 6th stage of the basic realm? Qin Shujian's face was slightly serious. He looked at the middle-aged man in brown clothes in front of him. In the previous exchange, No one had the upper hand. Therefore, he had a rough estimate of the strength of the person in front of him. "This is Instructor Zhang from the Martial Arts Club!" Seeing the person who came, the crowd of players became restless. The instructor of the martial arts club was actually the person who taught the players cultivation methods. From the beginning, these players knew that the instructor of the martial arts club was a powerful expert. However, no one knew exactly how strong the other party was. However, Instructor Zhang had appeared and blocked the mysterious NPC's path. His strength was definitely not ordinary. Sporting Instructor Zhang's face was gloomy as he looked at the dozen or so corpses on the ground. He was shocked. That neat cut, as well as the strength that Qin Shujian had displayed in the fight just now, all showed that he was a difficult opponent to deal with. "Why have you come here to kill people for no reason?" Coach Zhang shouted angrily. "So what if I kill him? Even if he doesn't die today, he won't be able to live past tomorrow." Qin Shujian sneered disdainfully. The other party's strength was not weak. However, if it was a true life-and-death battle, he was still confident that he could cut down the other party. The Black Tiger Saber technique that had reached great heights was not just a simple description. He hadn't even unleashed 70% of the saber technique's essence in that hasty saber strike. The only thing that Qin Shujian was worried about was whether the person in front of him was the strongest person in the novice village, or if he was just one of the experts. Sporting Instructor Zhang's eyes were gloomy. "You are so arrogant. If you want revenge, then hurry up and attack. If you don't dare, then scram. Impudent!" Sporting Instructor Zhang's face was extremely gloomy. He shouted angrily, "I respect you because you are the Langshan Stronghold Master, so I have been giving you some face. Don't push your luck." Hearing this, Qin Shujian narrowed his eyes. From the other party's words, it was clear that he knew his identity. Logically speaking, it had only been 2 days since he killed Wu Xing and replaced him. Apart from the bandits of Langshan Stronghold, no one else should know that the Langshan Stronghold Master had changed. However, the other party had directly pointed out his identity. It was clear that he had some understanding of him. However, Qin Shujian was only puzzled for a moment, but he soon came to a realization. He was an NPC and the other party was an NPC. Since he could occasionally receive notifications from the system, the other party could do the same. There was no need to be suspicious. The identity of the Langshan Stronghold Master must have been revealed by the system. On the other side, the other players were also confused. Langshan Stronghold Master? Once they heard this name, they knew that he was the leader of a faction. Even though the other party had killed so many beginner village guards, Sporting Instructor Zhang still hadn't made a move. This made the players even more shocked at Qin Shujian's strength. Whoosh! Whoosh! Another 2 people rushed out from the beginner village and landed next to Sporting Instructor Zhang. A man and a woman. The man had a fat head and big ears. His clothes were black and shiny. He had a stubble on his face and looked very sloppy. The woman was around 40 or 50 years old. She wore plain clothes and looked like an ordinary country woman. The first impression that these 2 people gave others was that they were ordinary country people. However, the aura that they were emitting made everyone understand that these 2 people were not ordinary people. In the crowd, Lu Shujia looked at the 2 people who had suddenly appeared and was stunned. Not only had he seen these 2 people before, but he was also quite familiar with them. One of them was a butcher in the village who sold pork. His name was Zhu Daming. The other was the lady boss of the village's tailor shop. Her name was Li Chunhua. In order to earn enough money to learn cultivation techniques in the dojo, he had done some random quests in the butcher shop and tailor shop. However, what surprised Lu Shojia was that these 2 people who didn't look amazing were actually experts who had been hiding their strength for a long time. When the 2 people appeared, Qin Shujian's eyes turned cold. In an instant, boom! His motionless body suddenly jumped up, and the tiger-headed saber slashed out with a fierce wind. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. The black tiger saber technique that had reached the greater perfection stage was displayed to the extreme. This time, Qin Shujian's target was still sporting instructor Zhang of the dojo. They didn't expect Qin Shujian to use such a terrifying killing move without saying a word. The black tiger saber technique that was used at full strength made sporting instructor Zhang feel that he wasn't facing a person, but a terrifying tiger that was slaughtering its way through the forest. There was no hesitation. Sporting instructor Zhang's palms were as red as flames. When he waved them out, it was as if there were flames spitting out. The temperature was so hot that the air was slightly distorted. Then, he saw the blades slashing towards him. His red palms suddenly closed together, trying to catch the blade. Unfortunately, not only was the blade fast, it was also extremely ferocious. As soon as Instructor Zhang's palms caught the blade, he felt an unstoppable force that directly shook his hands away. The broadsword was about to pierce his throat. Swish! The silver snake pierced through the air and coiled around the blade in an instant, revealing the appearance of a silver whip. The other end of the whip fell into the hands of the tailor shop's lady boss, Li Chunhua. However, before Instructor Zhang and Li Chunhua could breathe a sigh of relief, they saw a tiger head saber forcefully pull back. A huge force pulled Li Chunhua forward uncontrollably. Then, Qin Shujian took a step forward and pulled the tiger head blade out of the silver whip. He then turned around and slashed at Li Chunhua's neck. Before the tiger head knife could strike, a pork knife had already blocked its path. Ding! The two blades collided and sparks flew. Zhu Daming's hand trembled, and he almost lost his grip on the pork knife. Because of this, Qin Shujian's body was blocked. His originally flawless attack suddenly stopped. Li Chunhua and sporting instructor Zhang, who had regained their senses, were about to rush forward. Seeing this, Qin Shujian pulled out his blade and retreated. In an instant, he was out of the three people's attack range. He turned around and rushed outside. Some of the onlookers saw Qin Shujian rushing towards them and wanted to dodge. But they only saw the cold blades slashing towards them. Then they felt a pain in their bodies and turned into white light and disappeared. Chapter 15. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. From Qin Shujian's sudden attack to the opponent's calm retreat. The entire process of the fight only took a few seconds. Many players did not even have time to react before the dust settled. Soon after, sporting instructor Zhang and the others looked at each other and retreated back into the village. In the tailor shop, sporting instructor Zhang and the others sat across from each other. Apart from them, there was also an old man with a white beard. When the three of them looked at the old man, their expressions revealed a trace of respect. I've heard that the Cold Mountain Stronghold is the most ferocious mountain bandit group in this area. Today, I've seen that the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master is indeed extraordinary. I'm afraid that his strength is even more powerful than the previous Stronghold Master. Sporting instructor Zhang recalled that frightening blade strike and was still somewhat shocked. Li Chunhua shook her head and said, You don't have to say that. Since this person was able to kill Wu Xing, his strength must be greater than Wu Xing's. Sigh. I originally thought that the death of Wu Xing, the evil mountain bandit leader, would calm everyone down a bit. Who would have thought that the new Cold Mountain Stronghold Master would be even more ferocious than Wu Xing? If that's the case, it won't be easy for our village to calm down. Li Chunhua's words caused the atmosphere to become heavy. However, Zhu Daming's face was filled with indignation. It's true that the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master is strong, but he's not much stronger than us. If Village Chief is willing to act, we can definitely capture that person. As he spoke, his gaze fell on the old man. This was the village chief of Novice Village 10021. On the outside, he looked like a dying old man, but in reality, only Zhu Daming and the others knew that this was the true expert of Novice Village 10021. The village chief slowly said, From what I've seen, the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master has already reached the stage of full strength. At the very least, his cultivation has reached the 5th stage of the martial initiation realm. Now that he has the status of Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, his strength is comparable to an expert of the 6th stage of the martial initiation realm. If we don't make preparations and act rashly, there's no guarantee that we can capture him. Speaking to this point, the village chief paused for a bit before continuing. It's easy to let the tiger return to the mountain, but it's difficult to alert the snake. With the bandit's temperament, they will definitely not be satisfied with retreating this time. When they are prepared, there will definitely be a next time. When the time comes, we'll make our preparations and catch them all in one fell swoop. Humph, it's too bad that we can't leave the village at will. Otherwise, we would have uprooted the Cold Mountain stockade. Xu Daming snorted coldly. On the other side, Qin Shujian had already left the range of Novice Village 10021. As for why he left so decisively, to be honest, it was very simple. Because he couldn't win. He had used almost all of his strength in that brief exchange of blows. From Qin Shujian's point of view, the person who appeared first and the two who appeared later were at least experts of the 5th stage of the basic martial realm, or even the 6th stage of the basic martial realm. If he had to deal with one or two of them, he still had the confidence to win. However, if he had to deal with 3 of them, Qin Shujian would have no way to deal with them. Not to mention, there might be other experts in the novice village. In that case, if he continued to fight, other than putting himself in danger, there wouldn't be any other benefits. There are at least 3 experts of the 5th stage of the basic martial realm. There might even be experts of the 6th stage of the basic martial realm, or even more. It won't be easy to deal with this novice village 10021. After this round of probing, Qin Shujian had a rough idea of the situation. With Cold Mountain Stockade's current strength, if they were to go against Novice Village 10021, the probability of their destruction would be even higher. However, after thinking about it, Qin Shujian felt that it was reasonable. After all, the Novice Village was the first barrier for players after they entered the game. It was also the most important barrier. It was a place to protect players from developing steadily. According to Qin Shujian's estimation, the strength of each novice village might be different. For example, in Cold Mountain Stockade, his strength was the strongest. Therefore, the new novice village's strength would be based on his original foundation. It just so happened that Cold Mountain Stockade wouldn't be able to deal with the novice village. However, this was only Qin Shujian's personal guess. Whether this was the case or not, he still needed time to verify it. Right now, the most important thing for him was to deal with the threat of the players. According to Qin Shujian's original plan, he would first go and test the strength of the beginner village. If the beginner village's strength wasn't strong enough, then he would go back and bring a large group of Liang Mountain's bandits over and completely annihilate them. Without the novice village, the players would be rootless duckweeds. At that time, they would naturally be at his mercy. However, after this round of probing, the novice village's strength was too strong. Cold Mountain Stockade alone wouldn't be able to deal with it for the time being. Therefore, Qin Shujian's original plan could only be changed. At this time, he also looked at his own attributes. Chapter 16. Cold Mountain Village wasn't too far from Novice Village 10021. It didn't take long for Qin Shujian to return to this place. As soon as he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he saw a group of people dressed in rags and with yellowish complexions. They looked like refugees. There were men and women, old and young. Some of them looked young and strong, and they were even holding wooden sticks as weapons. At the same time, there were also dozens of bandits in the Cold Mountain stronghold who surrounded these people. The leader was Zhang Tiniu, one of the leaders of Cold Mountain Village. The two sides seemed to be confronting each other. No one dared to act rashly, but the atmosphere was somewhat heavy. Seeing Qin Shujian return, Zhang Tiniu immediately went to greet him, as if he had seen his backbone. "Village head! What's going on?" Looking at the scene, Qin Shujian frowned. Village head. Just as Zhang Tinia was about to speak, an old man who looked like he was in his 70s among the refugees spoke first. May I ask if you are the owner of this place? How should I address you? Hearing this, Qin Shujian looked towards the source of the voice. The old man was also dressed in rags. His complexion was yellowish and dull, but his eyes weren't as turbid as the old man's. Instead, they were extremely bright. Even though he was in such dire straits, he still had a faint elegance. This was a kind of temperament. A temperament that couldn't be easily changed by external factors. Qin Shujian took a deep look at the other party and said indifferently, I am the village head of Cold Mountain Village. Who are you? This old man, Xingfang, greets the village head. The old man, Xingfang, first bowed, then said in a deep voice, Today, this old man and the others hope that the village head can take us in and give us food to eat. We are also willing to join Cold Mountain Village and serve the village head. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Shujian immediately received the system's message. There are refugees who want to join Cold Mountain Village. Do you agree? Refugees. Seeing this, Qin Shujian did not immediately agree. Instead, he said calmly, If you are willing to join Cold Mountain Stronghold, I will not refuse. However, do you know what kind of place Cold Mountain Stronghold is? Don't worry about that, Stockade Master. Your honorable stockade has a great reputation in the forest. We've heard a lot about it on our way here. Xingfang's expression was solemn as he said, We are sincerely begging the chieftain to take us in. We only hope that the chieftain can fulfill our wish. At this point, Xingfang stared intently at Qin Shujian, his heart filled with sorrow. Once upon a time, he had already fallen to the point of associating himself with bandits and robbers. But the situation was stronger than the person. In this chaotic era of war, human lives were like grass. Innocent and kind people had no way to survive. Along the way, more than half of the original team of hundreds of people had been lost. If they did not find a place to settle down, Xingfang had a premonition. Most likely, it wouldn't be long before all of them died. As Xingfang's voice fell, the refugees behind him all looked at Qin Shujian with hopeful eyes. They did not fear the bandits at all. In their eyes, there was no longer any distinction between good and evil. Filling their stomachs and finding a place to stay were the most extravagant wishes they had right now. Qin Shujian looked at the refugees and did not immediately reply. There were about 60 to 70 refugees in front of him. Most of them were thin and malnourished young men. Among them, there were only a dozen or so children and the elderly. Even if the young men were weak from hunger, one could still vaguely see the sturdiness of the farmers. These people were all living forces. With this in mind, Qin Shujian finally lowered his head slowly. Since you are sincere in joining my Cold Mountain Stronghold, I will not refuse. But there is one thing I hope you can understand. Once you join my Cold Mountain Stronghold, you will forever be a member of my Cold Mountain Stronghold. If anyone wants to withdraw midway, don't blame me for being ruthless. As he spoke, Qin Shujian's eyes were bright and full of expression. An intimidating aura suddenly erupted from his body. It was as if a prostrating black tiger was staring coldly at them. We understand. Xingfang's heart trembled. He immediately bowed. As for the refugees behind him, they all lowered their heads in unison. Many of them still had lingering fear in their eyes. Seeing this, Qin Shujian withdrew his aura and nodded in satisfaction. From now on, you will be a member of my Cold Mountain Stronghold. You agreed to the refugees' request. 63 refugees have joined the Cold Mountain Stronghold. 2 messages popped up in a row. When Qin Shujian looked at Xingfang again, his attributes had already appeared before his eyes. Name, Xingfang Identity, Bandit Affiliation, Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm, 4th level of the Basic Realm Cultivation Method, Eternal Spring Arts 4th level, 7 Flower Leaf Palm, Perfection, 5 Elements 8 Trigram Steps, Perfection. When he saw this, Qin Shujian couldn't help but be startled. 4th level of the Basic Realm. 3 cultivation methods. One of them was the main cultivation method, while the other 2 were auxiliary cultivation methods. He had never expected that this sallow and emaciated old man in front of him would actually be a hidden expert. But soon, Qin Shujian came to his senses. He looked at Xingfang as if he was looking at a delicious cake. He had struck gold. This time, he had really struck gold. One had to know that in such a large cold mountain stronghold, there were only 2 bandits, Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu, who were at the 2nd level of the basic realm. Above them was him, the leader of the 6th level of the basic realm. It could be said that the cold mountain stronghold's strength was severely lacking. Basically, opponents above the 3rd level of the basic realm would require him, the leader, to personally deal with them. Once he left the cold mountain stronghold, the cold mountain stronghold would fall into an awkward situation where there was no expert to oversee it. Moreover, even if he wanted to send people out to do things, he didn't have any real experts that he could use. Now that he saw Xingfang, Qin Shujian seemed to see the hope of solving these problems. A 4th level of the basic realm delivered himself to his doorstep. This wasn't just a matter of words. He was a rare expert. After all, even the previous leader of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, Wu Xing, was only at the 3rd level of the basic realm without the support of his faction. In terms of true strength, he was even weaker than Xingfang. His gaze paused on Xingfang for a few seconds before Qin Shujian turned to look at the other refugees. Name, Zhao Shanlin. Status, Bandit Faction, Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm. 2nd level of the basic realm cultivation method, Eternal Spring Arts, 2nd level, 7 Flower Leaf Palm, Advanced, 5 Elements Bagua Steps, Elementary. Name, Wang Hu. Status, Bandit Faction, Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm. 2nd level of the basic realm cultivation method, Eternal Spring Arts, 4th level. 7 Flower Leaf Palm, Elementary, 5 Elements Bagua Steps, Elementary, 2nd level of the basic realm. Another 2 experts at the 2nd level of the basic realm. However, after seeing Xingfang, a genius in the 4th stage of the new martial realm, and then seeing 2 people in the 2nd stage of the new martial realm, although Qin Shujian was happy, he was not as excited as before. Chapter 17. After looking through the attributes of all the refugees, Qin Shujian found a dozen more people there. These people all majored in the Eternal Spring Art. It was as if they were martial arts of the same origin. However, their realms were all at the 1st stage of the basic realm. Apart from Zhao Shanlin and Wang Hu, there were no other experts above the 2nd stage of the basic realm. However, this was enough. After taking in this group of people, the strength of the entire Cold Mountain Stronghold would at least double. As for the hidden dangers of rebellion with so many experts, Qin Shujian sneered inwardly. In his opinion, this was not a problem at all. In the Lulin, strength was respected. He was confident that with his current strength, he would be able to suppress any possible rebellion. After taking in Xingfang and the others, Qin Shujian immediately asked Zhang Tiniu and the others to make the necessary arrangements. Moreover, they immediately gave them some food to eat. There was no other way. From Qin Shujian's point of view, many of these newly recruited bandits were already so hungry that they only had a trace of strength left. If he delayed any longer, he would have to worry that these people would die. Once they entered his Cold Mountain Stronghold, they would be part of his Cold Mountain Stronghold. If a group of people starved to death for no reason, it would be a painful matter. After all, Qin Shujian had long wanted to expand the Cold Mountain Stronghold. However, he never had enough manpower. Now that this group of refugees had delivered themselves to his doorstep, it was actually exactly what he wanted. Sometimes, population was the most important productivity. Without enough people, many things could not be carried out. Qin Shujian was not so naive as to think that NPCs who starved to death could be refreshed by the system. In the Zhongyi Hall, after some arrangements, the newly recruited bandits could be considered to have settled down in the Cold Mountain Stronghold. As for Qin Shujian, he immediately summoned Jingfang. In his heart, he still valued this expert of the fourth stage of the basic realm very much. This old man greets the stronghold lord. After a simple tidying up, although Jingfang's complexion was still yellow, his energy was much better. Please sit. Thank you, stronghold lord. Jingfang didn't refuse. After thanking him, he took a seat at the side. Qin Shujian said, I still don't know where Elder Jing and the others came from. Linchuan Market, 1,000 miles away. 1,000 miles away? Qin Shujian was surprised. Jingfang cupped his hands and said, That's right. I won't lie to you, master. The reason why we traveled thousands of miles is to avoid the disaster of war and famine. I would like to hear the details. Qin Shujian's expression was both curious and solemn. Seeing this, Jingfang took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Allow this old man to slowly explain everything. With Jingfang's words, Qin Shujian finally understood most of the background of Jingfang and the others. He also understood why Jingfang was so strong. Linchuan Town was a small town thousands of miles away. Although it was called a town, it was actually not much bigger than an ordinary village. Jingfang was a private school teacher and the owner of a martial arts center in Linchuan Town. However, there were wars everywhere in the great Zhao nation. There were disasters of war and man-made disasters everywhere. Coincidentally, there was also a drought and famine. This caused refugees to rise up and the people everywhere were in dire straits. Linchuan Town was already having a hard time surviving in the face of the drought. In the end, it coincidentally encountered a disaster of war. Deserters from unknown places formed a group and burned, killed, and pillaged Linchuan Town to steal food. Although Linchuan Town was a town, it wasn't strong at all. A fourth-stage martial artist like Jingfang was completely useless in front of a large number of soldiers. Therefore, Linchuan Town fell. A portion of the people who were unwilling to die gathered together and escaped from Linchuan Town. As Jingfang was a private school teacher and the owner of a martial arts center, he had a good reputation in Linchuan Town. Therefore, he was temporarily elected as the leader. However, along the way, there were both young and old in the group, so they moved very slowly. In addition, there was a famine and a disaster of war everywhere. Every place was in war and there was a shortage of food. No one had the ability to take in hundreds of people. Therefore, Jingfang and the others could only move and leave the areas affected by the disaster of war first. However, with hundreds of people, the daily consumption of food was a huge problem. In the beginning, they were able to rely on the dry rations they brought with them and barely survive for a few days. Later on, they ate whatever they encountered and drank whatever water they encountered. They ate a lot of grass, roots, and tree bark, but they still couldn't avoid the situation of people starving to death. Now, there were only 60 or so people left in the group of hundreds. If Cold Mountain Village hadn't taken them in, the remaining 60 or so people would have all starved to death in a few days. Because of this, Jingfang was now very grateful to Qin Shujian. The other party's decision wasn't as simple as giving him food to eat. It had also saved dozens of lives in Linchuan Town. Qin Shujian also felt some admiration for Jingfang. After all, it was easy to imagine how difficult it was to escape such a group of people thousands of miles away. Elder Zheng, you can rest assured. Since you're now in Cold Mountain Village, as long as you don't betray us, you won't starve as long as I feed you. Qin Shujian promised. Jingfang stood up and bowed. Thank you, master. Then, he took out 3 wrinkled books from his sleeves and handed them over with both hands. These are the cultivation methods that I practiced in the martial arts club. Now, I'm giving them to you as a thank you for taking us in. Well said, well said. Qin Shujian's eyes lit up and he took the 3 books with a smile on his face. When he saw Jingfang's attributes, he had the idea of getting the cultivation methods that he learned. Because there were only 5 levels in the body forging scripture, he had reached the end of it. If he wanted to progress further, Qin Shujian had no other solution at the moment. The best way was to find a higher level of his main cultivation method and improve it. Although he did not know what level Jingfang's cultivation method was, it was always a good thing to have one more reference. Especially the last two cultivation methods, which were obviously offensive methods. Qin Shujian was also very keen on improving one's strength without having to raise one's own level. It was just that what surprised him was that Jingfangji would be so tactful. Before he made a request, he took the initiative to deliver the 3 cultivation methods. After delivering the 3 cultivation methods, Jingfang said, "I see that the village is a little shabby. Coincidentally, there are many carpenters and masons in my group. If Stockade Master doesn't mind, I can contribute to the stockade and renovate this place." Qin Shujian's heart skipped a beat, and the smile on his face became even more obvious. Talents! These were all talents. He did not expect that there would be such skilled people among the newly arrived refugees. Before this, there was only Wang Taizhu, a dabbler carpenter, in the entire Cold Mountain village. Qin Shujian had seen how shabby the village was, but due to the limitations of the environment and the lack of manpower, he had not cared about it for the time being. But now that Jingfang had taken the initiative to bring it up, he naturally had no reason to refuse. Killing 2 more monsters shouldn't be a problem. Looks like I can reach the first stage of the basic realm today. The wilderness at night was even more dangerous. Although players could continuously revive, there was a price to pay for each revival. Chao Hong didn't want to be beaten back to his original state just as he was about to reach the first stage of the basic realm. The iron sword was pulled out and blood splattered everywhere. A wild deer half the height of a man lay on the ground, motionless. Chao Hong's body shook slightly, and a carefree smile appeared on his face. The first stage of the basic martial arts realm. After spending nearly 2 days, he finally crossed the initial threshold and walked in front of the majority of the players. After collecting the spoils of war, Chao Hong planned to return. Although his realm had increased, he still didn't want to act rashly. But just as Chao Hong was about to turn around, his sharp eyes caught sight of a figure. The figure held a large saber and wore tattered clothes. This was a humanoid NPC. Chao Hong immediately reacted. After traveling in the wilderness for so long, he had only encountered wild beasts. This was the first time he had encountered a humanoid NPC. Seeing the weapon in the other party's hand, the other party's expression seemed to be somewhat fierce. If it was half an hour ago, Chao Hong's main thought would be to retreat. But now that his realm had increased to the first stage of the basic realm, his sudden increase in strength filled his heart with confidence. In addition, the humanoid monster in front of him didn't look like a powerful character. A humanoid NPC. If I kill it, it might drop some good stuff. Chao Hong thought to himself. Looking at the humanoid NPC in front of him, he slowly walked over. The other party seemed to have noticed him and immediately rushed toward him with a large saber in hand. Good timing, Chao Hong thought to himself. He immediately got into position and prepared to fight the humanoid monster in front of him. But without waiting for Chao Hong to show his skills, he saw similar humanoid monsters swarming in from all directions. 1, 2, 10, 20. They were densely packed, and in the blink of an eye, they had surrounded him. Chao Hong's face turned ashen. He couldn't even hold the iron sword in his hand steadily. He didn't expect that the one-on-one situation he had originally envisioned would turn into a group fight in the blink of an eye. Chao Hong swallowed his saliva as he looked at the gleaming sabers and the eyes that were glaring at him covetously. Run! That was Chao Hong's first reaction. But he was already surrounded. Before he could run more than a few steps, he was slashed to the ground by a flurry of sabers. The intense pain caused his face to turn pale. Before he could let out a scream, several more large sabers occupied his line of sight. F***CK. Chao Hong only had time for this thought to flash through his mind before his vision fell into darkness. In the blink of an eye, the white light dissipated. Only the iron sword was left. Qin Shujian walked forward. Zhao Shanlin picked up the iron sword at the right time and handed it over. Chief, this is something dropped by the mutants. After receiving the iron sword, Qin Shujian checked its attributes. It was no different from the large sabers of ordinary bandits. Then, he tossed it to a bandit who used a wooden stick as a weapon. Pass down my order. Any mutants who step out of the range of Novice Village 10021 are to be killed without mercy. Yes. Zhao Shanlin immediately accepted the order. Then, he and the other bandits spread out into the wilderness to search. Although he didn't know why Qin Shujian wanted to kill all these mutants, he didn't have the intention to ask. Since he had joined the Cold Mountain stronghold, Zhao Shanlin knew what to ask and what not to ask. Especially in his opinion. These mutants looked similar to them. But in the end, there were still some differences. He couldn't help but think of something Jing Fang had said before. Those who were not of the same race had different intentions. So if they were killed, then so be it. After Zhao Shanlin and the others all left, Qin Shujian was the only one left. Seeing the other party's respectful expression from beginning to end, he was quite satisfied. Some things didn't need to be investigated too much. As long as they were obedient, and could be used by him, that was enough. Chapter 19. The white light dissipated, revealing Chao Hong's dark face. Thinking about how he was chopped to death, he gnashed his teeth in anger. He couldn't help but check his stats. Chao Hong's face turned even uglier. Mother asterisk cur! No matter how good his manners were, he still couldn't help but curse. In his realm, it was displayed that he was at martial realm stage 0. Every time he died, he would drop a realm. This kind of loss made Chao Hong's heart ache for the first time. However, he didn't stay angry for long before he saw flashes of white light appear around him. Mother asterisk cur, those damn Liang Mountain bandits! Mother asterisk cur! He heard the curses of all kinds of players. I've been chasing chickens and ducks every day. It wasn't easy for me to reach martial realm stage 1. Now it's reset to 0. I don't want to play this stupid game anymore. A player's face was filled with grief and indignation. When the other players heard this, they looked at him with sympathy. At this time, Chao Hong also saw the system's remaining message. You were killed by the bandits of Liang Mountain Stronghold. Liang Mountain Stronghold. Bandits. Combined with the words of the other players, Chao Hong immediately understood. He wasn't the only one who was killed. The other players were also in the same situation. It seems that everyone was killed by the bandits of Liang Mountain Stronghold. We can't just let this go. Since when were we, players, allowed to be trampled on by NPCs? Let's form a team and kill all the bandits of Liang Mountain Stronghold. Suddenly, a player suggested. As soon as these words were spoken, the rest of the players immediately chimed in. No matter who it was, this matter would make them feel suffocated. The experience points that they had painstakingly accumulated were all reset to 0 after one resurrection. 2 days of hard work had been wasted. No player could accept this. Even Chao Hong felt a wave of anger in his heart. However, just as he was about to take out his weapon, he discovered another thing that made him feel annoyed. His weapon dropped. Simply put, he was killed by an NPC. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a man. Let's wait and see. Chao Hong gnashed his teeth. Seeing that there were already players forming teams and walking out of the village, he directly followed them. The fact that players could revive was their greatest advantage. Even though they knew from their interactions with the Liang Mountain bandits that the other party's cultivation level might be higher than theirs, they still had more people. Chao Hong believed that with the number of players, they would be able to crush the bandits to death. On the other side, Qin Shujian looked at the rising life force, and a gratified smile appeared on her face. He couldn't deal with the novice village for now. However, it wasn't impossible to suppress the growth of players. Currently, most of the players had not even stepped into the first stage of the basic realm. Compared to the bandits of the Liang Mountain stronghold, their strength was much weaker. In addition, although these bandits were not very intelligent, they were still bandits after all. They had experienced fighting and killing, so compared to the newbie players, they still had some advantages. In addition to the fact that the bandits could revive, Qin Shujian was not afraid that the bandits would be exhausted. In the end, Xing Fang and the others joined the Cold Mountain stronghold, which greatly increased its strength. Therefore, Qin Shujian decisively sent out most of the bandits to surround the novice village 10021 and kill all the players they encountered. I don't believe that by confining all these players to the novice village, they can achieve anything big. Qin Shujian's lips curled up into a cold smile. The strength of the players was that they could kill monsters to level up, and they could revive continuously. However, without the option of killing monsters to level up, and only having the ability to revive continuously, it would be like a never-ending ATM. Right now, he wanted to go down the path of killing monsters to level up. However, there was a difference. He was going to kill the players like they were monsters. The bandit of the Liang Mountain stronghold, Sun Shower, has advanced to the second stage of the basic realm due to killing too many mutants. Suddenly, a system message stunned Qin Shujian. Immediately, he was overjoyed. Level up! The other bandits can also level up by killing players. This discovery shocked Qin Shujian, but it was also a pleasant surprise. He had always thought that if the other bandits wanted to increase their strength, they could only train step by step and increase their strength step by step. But now, it was completely different. The other bandits could also level up by killing players. This meant that the bandits of the Liang Mountain stronghold had the possibility of rapid growth. Originally, Qin Shujian had a problem that worried him. His strength was increasing too quickly, and the bandits of the Liang Mountain stronghold couldn't keep up with his speed. But now, this worry was completely gone. Being able to kill players to level up was enough. Qin Shujian rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. Originally, I wanted to quickly increase my strength and then directly attack the novice village 10021, completely eliminating the hidden danger of the players here. But now, since the bandits of the Liang Mountain stronghold can kill players to level up, there is no need to rush to attack. It was better to keep farming than to get a large sum of money all at once. However, with bandits leveling up, there would naturally be bandits dying. After becoming the head of the Liang Mountain stronghold, Qin Shujian was in control of all the bandits' movements. No matter if someone leveled up or someone died, he would be able to receive a system message. The bandits that were killed by players needed 3 days to respawn. As long as the Liang Mountain stronghold wasn't breached, these bandits would continue to respawn. But if the Liang Mountain stronghold was breached, these bandits would no longer respawn. The bandit of the Liang Mountain stronghold, Tai Dan, has leveled up to the second stage of the basic realm due to killing too many inhumans. The bandit of the Liang Mountain stronghold, Wu Guden, has died. The bandit of the Liang Mountain stronghold. Occasionally, a few system messages would pop up, proving the intensity of the battle between the bandits and the players. At this moment, several players came from afar. Qin Shujian just happened to discover them, and they just happened to see Qin Shujian. For a moment, both sides couldn't help but look at each other. But after only 2 seconds, one of the players shouted, "It's the Liang Mountain stronghold master, run!" The other players also came to their senses. A day ago, at the entrance of the novice village, when Qin Shujian was fighting with several NPC experts in the village, they were among the spectators. With regards to Qin Shujian's strength, these people had a rough idea. That was, he was definitely not someone they could contend against. While it was true that players could revive, no one was willing to suffer the pain of death for no reason, let alone such a meaningless death. Hence, the instant these people saw Qin Shujian, they turned tail and ran. "You want to run?" Qin Shujian lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, and his body suddenly shot forward like an arrow leaving a bow. With a kick in the air, a burst of explosive sounds could be heard. One of the players at the back didn't even have the time to turn his head before he was kicked in the back, turning into a ray of white light and disappearing. The loud sound attracted the attention of the other players. They couldn't help but turn their heads. They just happened to see the scene of Qin Shujian kicking a player to death, causing their souls to leave their bodies. F***CK Chapter 20. How could they fight? There was no way to fight. The strength of the two sides were not even on the same level. When the players came back to their senses, they wanted to escape, but they couldn't get very far. Soon, they all followed in the footsteps of the first player. Only 2 iron swords were left on the ground, all alone. After killing these players, Qin Shujian's face didn't turn red, and he wasn't out of breath. With his current 6th stage of the new martial realm, it was too easy to deal with these players who hadn't even reached the 1st stage of the new martial realm. Picking up the 2 iron swords, Qin Shujian continued to search for other players. This slaughter didn't stop until nightfall. Cold Mountain Stronghold, Loyalty Hall. The newly joined Jingfang's group, as well as Wang Tieju's group, were all gathered here. How are the casualties this time? Qin Shujian asked. The others looked at each other. In the end, Jingfang opened his mouth and said, "Reporting to Stronghold Master, this time, a total of 32 people from our Cold Mountain Stronghold died at the hands of the players." "Then what about the brothers who advanced?" 17 of them advanced to the 2nd stage of the new martial realm, and 2 advanced to the 3rd stage. Jingfang answered truthfully. Qin Shujian also knew who the 2 who advanced to the 3rd stage of the new martial realm were. One was Wang Taizhu, and the other was Zhang Tiniu. The 2 of them were originally the leaders of the Cold Mountain Stronghold, so their strength wasn't weak. Now that they had killed a large number of players, it was reasonable for them to advance to the 3rd stage of the new martial realm. However, there was too much information in the system, so Qin Shujian didn't bother to look at it one by one. He simply waited for the matter to come to an end before putting all the information together. Cold Mountain Stronghold originally had 70 bandits. Adding in the refugees, the number of bandits had increased to 133. This time, they had lost 32 people. This meant that before these people respawned, Cold Mountain Stronghold would only have 101 bandits left. However, of the remaining 101 bandits, a quarter of them were at the 2nd stage of the new martial realm. Thus, Cold Mountain Stronghold's strength didn't decrease. Instead, it increased a lot. However, there were also some hidden dangers. Without waiting for Qin Shujian to think too much, Jingfang spoke again. "Master, there are too many inhumans. Compared to our men, the difference between the 2 is tens of times. Furthermore, mutants revive too quickly. We've already met the same mutant 3 times today. Although there is a certain gap between every stage below the 5th stage of the basic realm, it's not to the point where it's impossible to cross. A few mutants would be able to kill a person in the 1st stage of the basic realm. 20 to 30 mutants would be able to kill a person in the 2nd stage of the basic realm. If this matter is not handled properly, I'm afraid there will be huge trouble." With Jingfang's eyesight, he could also see the threat of the Inhumans. Cold Mountain Stronghold couldn't compare to their huge numbers and their fast resurrection rate. However, your subordinate did discover something. That is, the strength of the resurrected mutants would weaken a little, as if their realm had dropped. Upon hearing this, Qin Shujian fell silent. Jingfang's words also made him realize that his original assumption was too naive. Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits were indeed stronger than normal players. However, no matter how strong they were still many times weaker than players. A bandit needed 3 days to respawn, but players didn't need such a long time to revive. As long as players didn't fear death and used their lives to kill the Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits, sooner or later they would be able to kill them all. When that time came, before the dead bandits could respawn, an uncountable number of players would rush to the foot of Cold Mountain. Even if Qin Shujian was naturally strong, facing thousands of players, he didn't think he would be able to resist. Originally, he wanted to raise the players in Novice Village 10021 and use them as experience bags to level up. However, only now did he realize how dangerous his plan was. As for the other party's last words, he more or less understood. Players didn't have a price to pay for reviving. It should be the same as the bandits dying and respawning. Every time they respawned, they would drop a realm. I already know about this matter. Since Elder Jing was originally a dojo master and a private tutor, why don't you work in my Cold Mountain stronghold and teach our brothers? Qin Shujian changed the topic and his gaze fell on Jingfang. If Elder Jing is willing, I can also create a military advisor position in the stronghold. Elder Jing will be my Cold Mountain stronghold's military advisor in the future. Your position will temporarily be the same as the chieftain. He already had this idea from the beginning. Now that he saw Jingfang, he officially brought it up. After all the bandits in Cold Mountain stronghold only knew one body tempering scripture. Their strength was too limited. Jingfang obviously had other martial arts in his hands. If he imparted it to the other bandits, it could also indirectly increase their strength. There was also another matter. From Qin Shujian's point of view, learning more things and being able to read a few words was also good. Although he didn't think that with the intelligence of Cold Mountain Stronghold's ordinary bandits, they would be able to learn anything, there wouldn't be any negative effects. What Qin Shujian really wanted to nurture were ordinary bandits like Wang Taizhu and Zhang Tinya. Cold Mountain was so big. If he had to do everything by himself, it would be too tiring. Properly nurturing some talents was also a plan for the future. Faced with Qin Shujian's suggestion, Jingfang didn't refuse. Instead, he stood up and said with a grateful expression, "This old man will listen to all of Stronghold Master's orders. You guys can leave for now. I need to be alone." After making a simple announcement, Qin Shujian directly drove them out. Hearing this, Jingfang and the others all stood up and left. In the blink of an eye, Qin Shujian was the only one left in the loyalty hall. He admired Jingfang very much. Whether it was his background or his strength, he was second only to him in Cold Mountain Stronghold. Such a talent naturally wouldn't be buried so easily. However, Jingfang had just joined Cold Mountain Stronghold not long ago. Qin Shujian couldn't directly give him too much power. If he said that the military advisor position was equivalent to the chieftain position, then it was equivalent to the chieftain position. If he wanted to say that he was above the chieftain position, it would only take a single sentence from him. Before Qin Shujian took over as Cold Mountain Stronghold's Stronghold Master, Cold Mountain Stronghold only had two positions: Stronghold Master and Chieftain. Now, Qin Shujian didn't plan to make too many changes. He would take things one step at a time and eat one mouthful at a time. He would first solve the problem of the players, then slowly deal with other matters. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian also checked today's harvest. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Affiliation: Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm. 6th stage of the basic realm, inside Cold Mountain Stronghold's territory. Realm +1, Cultivation Method, Body Tempering Scripture Perfection, plus, Mortal Rank Low Grade, Black Tiger Saber Technique, plus, Greater Heights, Mortal Rank Middle Grade, Life Source, 267 Equipment. Grade 9 Tiger Head Saber, Grade 9 Tiger Skin Set, Tiger Skin Coat, Tiger Skin Trousers, Tiger Skin Belt, Tiger Skin Thick Boots. His life source directly increased from 22 to 267, an increase of more than 200 points. This leap made Qin Shujian involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air. This was the first time he felt that the players were actually able to contribute so much life source. And this was only after half a day's harvest. Soon after, Qin Shujian also discovered something that made him astonished. That was, behind the body tempering scripture that should have been perfection, there was actually a plus sign. Chapter 21. Other than the body-forging scripture, there was also a plus sign behind the Black Tiger Saber technique. The Black Tiger Saber technique at the peak of perfection already had great power. If it went up another level, Qin Shujian believed that it would definitely lead to another transformation. However, Qin Shujian's gaze fell on the body-forging scripture. As his main cultivation method, the body-forging scripture was currently his main method to increase his strength. Previously, when he improved the Black Tiger Saber technique, it was also because the body-forging scripture could not be improved. After thinking for a moment, Qin Shujian took out the 3 cultivation methods that Xing Fang had given him. Then, without hesitation, he opened the 3 cultivation methods one by one. You have learned the mortal level low-grade Eternal Spring Art. You have learned the mortal level low-grade 7 Flower Leaf Palm. You have learned the mortal level low-grade 5 Elements 8 Trigram Steps. 3 notifications, and 3 books disappeared. In Qin Shujian's attributes, there were 3 new cultivation methods. The Eternal Spring Art was no different from the body-forging scripture. The highest level was only the 5th level. With the cultivation of the Eternal Spring Art, Qin Shujian found that there were some subtle changes in his body. The quality of his body had become more active. Although there was no breakthrough in the realm, he was sure that his strength was stronger than before. Overlay! Qin Shujian immediately understood what was going on. This was obviously the effect of the Eternal Spring Art and the body-forging scripture. However, the Eternal Spring Art was still at the 1st level. The effect was not great, so there was not much transformation after the overlay. As for the other 2 cultivation methods, they did not cause much of a change. There was only an additional palm technique in his mind called the 7 Flower Leaf Palm, as well as the 5 Elements 8 Trigram Steps, and the Qi circulation method of the 2 cultivation methods. Now that he had more than 200 points of vitality in his hand, there was a plus sign behind any of the cultivation methods. However, Qin Shujian only hesitated for a moment before he made a decision. I want to see what kind of changes the body-forging scripture can produce after it is completed. While he was thinking, his mind finally fell on the plus sign behind the body-forging scripture. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, his life force instantly decreased by 200 points. Qin Shujian only felt a buzzing sound in his mind. Then, the original 5 levels of the Body Tempering Sutra underwent a miraculous change. Immediately after, the blood in his body started to boil. Boom! His blood was boiling. His originally calm blood was now like a surging river, surging violently within his body. The skin on the surface of his body also turned red. An indescribable pain made Qin Shujian's face turn pale. His whole body trembled uncontrollably, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. The only difference was, the sweat that seeped out had a light red tinge to it. At first glance, it looked like blood. A full quarter of an hour passed. Only then did the feeling slowly fade away. Huff! Huff! Qin Shujian gasped for breath and collapsed on his seat like a drowning man who had just been rescued. A moment later. Only then did he shout. Men! Not long after, a bandit walked in. Qin Shujian ordered. Get a bucket of hot water and send it to my room. Yes. After carefully washing his face and rinsing his mouth, Qin Shujian seemed to have been reborn. Especially the blood that used to be like stagnant water. Now, it was like a river that had broken through a dam, flowing non-stop within his body. Faintly, one could even hear the sound of hua hua. Name, Qin Shujian. Identity, Cold Mountain Stronghold Leader. Affiliation, 7th level of the Martial Initiation Realm, within the Cold Mountain Stronghold Sphere of Influence, Realm +1, Cultivation Technique, Unknown Cultivation Technique 6th level, Strength at Will, Peak of Qi and Blood, Mortal level Middle Grade, Black Tiger Saber Technique, Greater Heights, Mortal level Middle Grade, Eternal Spring Arts 1st level, plus, total of 5 levels, Mortal level Low Grade, 7 Leaf. Piercing Flower Palm, plus, Mortal level Low Grade, 5 Elements 8 Trigram Steps, plus, Mortal level Low Grade, Life Force, 67, equipment omitted. 7th level of the martial initiation realm, peak of Qi and blood. Qin Shujian couldn't help but feel shocked as he looked at his own attributes. The body tempering scripture had become the 6th level of the unknown cultivation technique. There was even an additional effect of peak of Qi and blood. At the same time, he also noticed a few additional system messages. You've broken the shackles of the body tempering scripture and successfully deduced it into an unknown cultivation technique. You can name this cultivation technique. Your cultivation has advanced to the 6th level of the martial initiation realm. After cleansing your blood, you've obtained the special effect of peak of Qi and blood. You'll possess strength that far surpasses that of ordinary people. At this point, Qin Shujian finally understood what was going on. The so-called peak of Qi and blood was an effect that could only be obtained when one broke through to the 6th level of the martial initiation realm. Soon, he thought of another problem. When I received the force enhancement, I was already at the 6th level of the martial initiation realm. However, I didn't obtain the peak of Qi and blood effect. Moreover, the 6th level of the martial initiation realm only increased my strength by a small amount. It didn't have this kind of transformative effect. In other words, the force enhancement's increase in realm is only a simple increase in realm. It only increases the strength of that realm. As for the transformative effect of this realm, it's not something the force enhancement's effect can give. Qin Shujian now had a deeper understanding of the force enhancement's realm. This kind of force enhancement was only a simple increase in realm. It couldn't actually transform. If one had to forcefully divide it, the 6th level of the martial initiation realm and the current 7th level of the martial initiation realm could only be considered as a kind of pseudo-6th level of the martial initiation realm or pseudo-7th level of the martial initiation realm. This way, things would be much simpler. After his true realm increased to the 6th level of the martial initiation realm, Qin Shujian felt that his blood had undergone a huge transformation. It indirectly increased the quality of his body in all aspects. Even without the force enhancement's effect, his strength was much stronger than when he was at the pseudo-6th level. In other words, a pseudo-6th level of the martial initiation realm could suppress an expert at the 5th level of the martial initiation realm. However, once he faced a true 6th level of the martial initiation realm, there was a high probability that he would be beaten up. Just like that, Qin Shujian's understanding of this game increased by a bit. The 3 NPCs from the novice village should all be at the 5th level of the martial initiation realm. With my current strength, it wouldn't be too much of a problem to beat them 1-on-3. However, no one can guarantee that there won't be stronger experts in the novice village. Right now, the most important thing is to increase my strength a bit more. Only then will it be safer. Thinking to there, Qin Shujian looked at the remaining 67 points of life and then looked at the plus sign behind the remaining cultivation methods. He immediately made up his mind and directly tapped on it. Add. If he didn't use the life force, it wouldn't increase in value even if he kept it. He might as well add it all and try his best to transform it into his own strength. Then, he saw the life force decrease like water. Chapter 22. In Novice Village 10021. Currently, a large majority of the players were gathered here. The large number of players gathered here almost filled up the small village. Mother Kerr, is there something wrong with these bandits' brains? If this goes on, our players from Novice Village 10021 will be at the bottom of the other novice villages. In a temporary meeting room, Chao Hong roared in exasperation. Right now, he was really furious. In less than 3 days, he had been killed by the bandits 7 or 8 times. His cultivation progress was forever stuck at martial realm stage 0. Chao Hong could not figure out where the problem was. Those bandits were like vengeful spirits. As soon as he stepped out of the novice village, he would be surrounded and killed. He, who was at martial realm stage 0, would not even be a match for a single bandit. The other players present also had ugly expressions on their faces. Right now, the players in Novice Village 10021 are all restricted to within 2 miles of the Novice Village. With so many of us in such a small area, there simply isn't enough resources to share, Lu Shoujia said in a deep voice. There was a time interval between the spawning of monsters. There were thousands of players in Novice Village 10021. With such a small area and limited resources, there wasn't even enough for one person to share one monster. Moreover, at this point, Lu Shujia changed the topic. I don't know if you've noticed, but these days some of the bandits seem to have become stronger. Does this mean that when these NPCs kill us players, they can also level up? When these words were said, the other players' expressions changed. If Lu Shujia hadn't said it, they might not have noticed this. The bandits were already difficult enough to deal with. Just over 100 bandits were enough to make it difficult for them to move. If the bandits could really kill players to level up, then if this continued, they would be trapped in the Novice Village forever. A burly player said in a deep voice. Even if those bandits can level up, what can we do? Everyone here knows the strength of the Liangshan Stronghold Master. Our charge of over 1,000 players was annihilated by a single person. If we don't get rid of Mount Liang's chieftain, then even if we get rid of the other bandits, we still won't be able to escape from this crisis. With the players' fearless nature, they naturally wouldn't be willing to be surrounded and killed. As such, under the leadership of some of the more prestigious players, there were over 1,000 players working together in an attempt to break through the encirclement of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits. Unfortunately, before they could truly show their prowess, they encountered Master Qin Shujian. As for the result, it went without saying. That encirclement was what truly broke the morale of the players. Given our current situation, there are only 2 ways to solve the problem of bandits, one of them said. Hearing this, the other people's gazes also landed on the other party. Many people's gazes became serious. There was no other reason. Because the person in front of me is called Wang Ribin. In the real world, he was a direct descendant of the Wang family in the capital. As for the Wang family, it was a famous aristocratic family in the real world. Not only were their businesses spread all over the country, they even had great power in the government. This time, the opening of the game world attracted the attention of various forces. The Wang clan was one of them. As such, when Wang Ribin opened his mouth, the others remained silent. In terms of status, there weren't many people here who could compare with Wang Ribin. Seeing that the crowd had quieted down, Wang Ribin's handsome face revealed a devilish smile. Although the bandits surrounded and killed us players, they didn't force us into a dead end. Although the resources of the monsters within 2 miles are evenly distributed to all the players, it's only a drop in the bucket. However, if these resources are concentrated on a few players, I believe that we can quickly nurture a few high-level players. The reason why the bandits are so powerful is because of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's master. As long as we can nurture players who can contend with the Cold Mountain Stronghold's master, the problem of bandits will naturally be solved. As soon as these words were spoken, many people's expressions changed. They had to admit that Wang Renbin's method was indeed a solution. After all, when it came to leveling up and killing monsters, they didn't think that NPCs could be faster than players. However, young Master Wang's plan is quite good. Are you going to say that all the players we nurture will be from the Wang family? A flirtatious voice sounded, faintly containing a trace of ridicule. Wang Ribin looked in the direction of the voice and saw a graceful female player. Her skin was as white as snow, and her jet-black hair hung down her shoulders. Her bright and beautiful eyes were as moving as pearls, and her cherry-red lips were slightly curved into a soul-stirring smile. Xiaoming, you've misunderstood me. Since we're going to nurture a few players, we'll naturally choose them based on their potential. Wang Ribin wasn't angry at all, and instead smiled as he spoke. Young Master Wang, you should call me by my full name. Not everyone can call me Xiaoming. Zhao Xiaoming didn't seem to appreciate it. Others feared the Wang family, but she didn't need to. The Wang family was powerful, but her Zhao family wouldn't be much weaker. Also, don't forget, if we nurture a few players, we'll lag behind the other players. Even if we solve the problem of the bandits, we'll still be far behind the other players in the novice village. In the early stages of the game, if we lag behind, we'll lag behind. Young Master Wang, don't tell me you're really here to sightsee. Hearing this, Wang Renbin's smile disappeared. If that's the case, then there's only one other method left. Speaking of this, his expression became solemn. Someone in my Wang family has obtained a teleportation talisman somewhere else. As long as we know the coordinates, we can teleport people. As far as I know, apart from us, there are quite a few players in the novice village who have reached the second stage of the martial arts realm. The highest level player has even reached the fourth stage of the martial arts realm. If we can teleport these players over, then the bandits won't be a problem anymore. But, Wang Renbin paused, then said, this teleportation talisman is a one-time consumable item. After the teleportation time expires, all the players who participated in the teleportation will be forcefully teleported back. My Wang clan also expended a huge amount of manpower and resources to obtain this treasure. The bandits aren't my problem alone, so if you want to solve this problem, there's no reason for my Wang family to bear this loss alone. As soon as he said this, even Zhao Xiaoming's expression changed. She didn't expect the Wang family to be able to obtain such a treasure in the early stages of the game. The other players also had different expressions on their faces. Wang Renbin's words were very clear. He wanted all of them to share the cost of the teleportation talisman. One of the players suddenly asked, then according to young Master Wang, what price do we have to pay? I know that the people sitting here are basically the leaders or representatives of the player factions in the novice village 10021. Wang Renbin looked around, then finally extended a finger and said, 1 million. Among the factions that you're from, each faction will give 1 million to my Wang family. Then this matter will be left to my Wang family to solve. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.